What is up, my peoples?
Hello.
That's gonna be my new thing.
That's your
Every
new
time we
phrase.
start.
Wow.
What is up, my peoples?
Man, new
Yo.
year, new cast.
That's right, baby. Absolutely. Got to do it. It's very important. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
So good.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. Cool. This is exciting. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Forecast, a bi-weekly podcast about everything games, film, and news. On today's special edition episode number 166, our annual Game of the Year edition episode, we'll take a look at our top games of the year along with some honorable mentions. If you'd like to know more about what we do, you can follow us at on our social channels, or you can check out our website at wearethehorizon.com, where we have a ton of original content for you to browse through, including our multi-arc Starfinder adventure, The Discordant Signal. Additionally, everything we talk about is in our cast notes, which is pushed out to whatever podcasting app you are using. I am Aaron, joined by a couple additional peeps. Alex.
Yo.
Caleb.
Hey, that's me.
Chad.
Yo.
Jake. Jake.
He's muted.
Jake's muted.
I was
he's gone.
muted.
Already screwed up.
What an idiot! Gotta start over.
Yeah, just delete me.
And Owen. Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Hi, hello, what's up?
To start things off, we have, of course, this is a very special episode. This is our Game of the Year edition episode. We do this once a year. We get really excited. That's why it's called Game of the Year, not Game of the Month, or Game of the Bi-Year, or Game of the, I don't know, quarter. It's cool stuff. So, this year we've kind of changed up our format a little bit. We've tried a couple different things. I don't know. Just try something new. This time what we've done is we've narrowed down our top games to 6 games, in which those 6 games we're going to argue about which one actually belongs in the top spot for number 1 for the year. We also have a whole bunch of honorable mentions that we are going to start off with. And actually, for anybody who would be watching, I'm going to swap us over to our Game of the Year edition layout. It's so sexy.
Nice. That looks good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Man, it looks good. Nicely done. Good job, Owen.
Speaking of looking good,
That does look great.
I do notice something in the back of Caleb's camera there that Aaron is missing.
Oh, I am missing my light. I haven't figured out where to put it yet. I thought about putting it over on the bench, but I sit on the bench, so that doesn't make sense.
I don't know if you can tell, but I put electrical tape on the front of it because it's way too bright.
That's
Wow.
actually a
Completely
really good
cover the
idea.
front.
Yeah, that's a good fix.
Wait, where's Alex's?
I know.
Oh, shoot.
Listen, Alex needs to keep his very dark darkness with like just a silhouette of himself. If he
It's for
adds
my
any
horror
light in the
game streams.
background, then you know.
Your horror game stream.
I
Maybe
actually
terrifying to
switched.
see somebody in that mirror behind you.
I switched to keeping all of my lights off and using my phone as the webcam because it has a way better low light performance, so you can still see me. So I can actually
Wow.
like maintain the darkness in the room for the horror game. Yeah, it's pretty
Does
good.
that mean you're not just a Defense. floating head anymore? Because I kind of like that look.
Meanwhile,
All right.
Yeah, a little bit more than floating head at this point.
Let's get to it. What we're going to do is we're just going to rotate through this list of people alphabetically. Each of us has 3 honorable mentions we're going to talk about. And of course, because I'm double A, I'm AA Ron.
yeah, you are.
Get to go first, which is the best part. Love it. Absolutely excited. All right. For my honorable mention at number 1, we have Hard West 2. This is a turn-based tactics game that I loved. I've been playing, I think, about 34 hours and put about 34 hours in this game. Highlights for me, things that I really like. The bravado system in this game is kind of wild. Most of the time you play games, maybe you get a perk where if you kill an enemy, then you get to take another action, like in XCOM. But the bravado system is baked into this game in that every time any of your characters gets a kill, they just refresh on their actions. They can go back and take more actions. It's crazy. So the point of this game is not so much to line things up and kind of navigate through a map slowly. It's more like position your characters in a way in which you can kill as many enemies on your turn. Otherwise, you're going to get absolutely wrecked by the AI because they will destroy you. The other part I love about this game is I think the atmosphere, the environment. It's got that. I wanted to say Cowboys versus Aliens, but that was a really bad movie, and that would make it just sound like it was a
shut up.
bad
I
game.
love that movie. That movie's great.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's got that sci-fi mixed with Western feel.
I believe the category is Weird West.
Weird West.
Yeah, Weird
Okay.
West.
That is
Thank
what
you.
I've heard.
Weird West. I appreciate that. Yeah, I love the atmosphere, and I think the voice acting is actually pretty incredible in this game. They did a really good job with lines, and just in general, the storyline I thought was really good. So looking forward to maybe a DLC or I don't know, next game, Hard West 3. That'd be cool.
The bravado system's really, really cool. It's a unique twist on this genre that I think works pretty well most of the time.
Until you get like
sorry,
a 95% chance to hit and you miss.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one issue I still have with this type of game after Hard West 2.
You know what?
It's just, it tries to deal with it. It does.
It
'Cause
does.
If you miss a shot, it gives you a bunch of luck, which you then can expend to make sure you don't miss a shot later.
Yeah.
But you still have the issue of the first round of combat, 3 people in a row missing 90+% shots just means half of you die.
See, that's why you only use Running Deer, the melee character.
That's
Can't miss a melee strike, just send him on a murder spree.
You are spot on. I got to the point where that guy was so upgraded, he was doing three damage per hit, and every time he hit, he increased his chance of crit by 5%. So
Oh, yes.
halfway
I love
through
that.
the game,
Tasty.
I would be like 95% chance of crit, and I would just go kill everything. He's so good.
One of my favorite experiences with this game, I only played technically it was the beta, but I think it's basically just like the first 3 hours. There's a character who can like swap positions with any other character. And I was trying to tab off to do something else. So I accidentally swapped her into the middle of like 10 enemies. But because of the bravado system, I just shot the guy next to me, moved halfway to the door, shot another guy next to me, moved out the door, shot a guy standing just outside the door, and then walked into cover. And I was like, great. We did it. We survived, and we killed like half the enemies.
Got it on the first try.
Ridiculous.
It's very silly.
The only other thing I'll say about this game is there is a major difference between the highest level difficulty and all the other difficulties in the game, in that it adds an element where it requires you to do it within a certain number of rounds, which makes this game way more difficult. It is very much a save scum game. Like, you're just constantly saving before every action you do to try and puzzle it out and get to the end. And I think between that aspect and how weird that feels for a tactical turn-based game, and the 95% chance to hit and missing issue still in existence, is the reason that Hard West 2 didn't make it on the top of my list and is in my honorable mentions.
Makes sense.
All right, next up, Alex, your first honorable mention.
Yes, sir. Wait, am I supposed to say it before it comes on the screen? Okay, play it up.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That wasn't
excellent.
okay.
Oh my god. Get him off the cast.
Oh, no.
We announcing it before the picture shows up? I thought the picture would just happen and then we would just move on.
Whatever, man.
You tell me how you want to do it. You want to drum roll it in? I'll let you drum roll.
Well, whatever. I don't know. Played Up. Played Up is a great game. It is a overcooked like, as is the genre now, I guess.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it solves a lot of the problems that I had with Overcooked.
Oh, yeah.
They introduce roguelike mechanics, and they take away a bunch of like the wacky stuff. So like the difficulty in Overcooked scales based on it getting like really zany, and like you got to like jump across these logs or you fall in the river. Oh, you're gonna have to be out of the game for a few seconds. This is just you're running a kitchen and a restaurant, man, and it's just ramping up like how efficient you have to be over the course of the game, and you get like random upgrades across the run, and you have to like choose like, are you gonna be a fancy restaurant or a casual restaurant, and like that kind of thing. So it's just very directly a efficiency puzzle, and not just like throwing random stuff at you to make you frustrated.
Yeah, I appreciate how this game takes away like the RNG of running across, moving cars or anything like that, and puts more of a puzzle element into the game of just like, all right, you got to figure out where you're going to put your stove and where you're going to have your plates and how you're going to have your layout. And I like that. I think that was very cool and a good idea of kind of giving you this idea of how you lay out your restaurant, and it's a puzzle, but it's also, as you said, like that kind of that overcookie of like, okay, once the puzzle's done, how well does the puzzle work?
And everybody has to be on top of their jobs and just moving constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being able to rearrange things in the kitchen and the restaurant is a big part of it. But yeah, I just don't think it holds up to some of the other stuff that we had this year. I mean, it is in itself just a derivative game of Overcooked.
Oh, that makes it
That's
And
true, but I feel like we're gonna run into that in our top 6 also.
sure.
a derivative of. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that happens. I don't know. It's just not. It's fun for a good number of hours, but it doesn't.
It's basically really fun until you beat it once, and then it's like, okay, it could still be fun, but now we beat it.
Yeah.
It feels like something, it's very solvable, right? Like once you figure out, oh, this upgrade works really well here, and if you arrange your kitchen like this, bing, bom, boom, you're done.
Mhm,
And then every
mhm.
single run, if you just do those same steps every time, feels kind of like you've got it.
And
then
there
some,
are like
Once you get it, you get it.
there
Yeah,
are
exactly.
overtime days that you can just like go for infinity, and there's some people that spend an insane amount of time like fully automating a kitchen and stuff like that, but that's not something that we're gonna spend the time to do, I don't think.
Do you feel like the
I doubt it.
playability of this game is lacking in comparison to Overcooked just because the puzzle aspect exists, and so you can't really go back with a new set of 4 players and just play through the campaign like you do with Overcooked?
No, I think you could totally do it with if you had new people.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, would
I think
it
this has
be a
more replayability
situation?
than Overcooked.
Would it be a situation though where it's like, as someone who's played a bunch, you have to like bite your tongue and let them drive? Because otherwise,
Maybe
I
a
feel like it's
little.
like, hey, put that there, put that there. You go here, I go there, and you just are basically doing everything.
Yeah.
The old
I feel like you'd have to be like, this is my job. I'm gonna deal with the stuff that has to do with my job. You guys can do what
you
your
do your
jobs
thing.
and figure out how it gets better as you go.
Yeah.
That's fair.
To limit your quarterbacking a bit.
Yeah.
Did we ever actually, the 4 of us who played this, did we ever actually fully complete it? I think we did once.
finished
Once.
one. Yep.
Yeah.
Once. We were so bad at this game.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose the instant anyone has been standing outside too long or waiting on their order too long. It's just
I think
easy to lose.
one of my favorite things is the way they accurately portrayed microwaves, where if you close a microwave with nothing in it, it just bursts into flames immediately.
Immediately.
No hesitation. Just
It's good.
explodes. It's so true to
And-
life. It's so great.
The other true to life thing, when the kitchen is on fire, the cook just stands in the middle of the kitchen and does nothing.
Just looks at
stunned.
it.
Yeah.
Just why did this happen?
Yeah, I didn't understand what was going on. Why did the microwave catch on fire? I don't know. What am I supposed to do now? It turns out just hold the action button on it.
hmm
We hadn't had a fire before.
struggle. All right. Honorable mention number 3. This is from Caleb. What do we got?
My first one is Warm Snow. It's a roguelite action game, very similar to Hades. But I think it just does roguelike really, really well. It starts you out with just a couple of sort of builds. At the beginning of the game, you pick a god, and that determines kind of your abilities throughout the entire run. And you unlock more and more gods as you play through and beat bosses. And there's just a ton of different styles of play. So you can keep running back through harder and harder difficulties. They scale up like a long way, almost like a Diablo, with how many levels of difficulty there are. And you can keep running back through different runs, different builds. There's a bazillion items to pick up as you go and form even more specific builds, even based on in like a single god realm. But the gameplay is really quick, really fun. You're just slashing around with a sword, and you have some flying swords you can just launch at people nonstop. It's just kind of a blast to play. I really enjoyed it. Its base language is Chinese, and it does have some translation issues.
Mhm.
So it's sometimes hard to tell by the description of something what it actually does. So you almost get the Binding of Isaac, you don't know what an item is until you've picked it up and used it a few times. Deal.
Sure. but like not on purpose.
Not on purpose. And some of them are really straightforward. You know exactly what they do from the get-go. But yeah, some of them not so much.
I only played a little bit of this game, but I really appreciate the system where when you find an upgrade, it's basically one of 4 options of that like upgrade. Like depending on which slot you put it in, it does a variation of the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you like a bunch of different ideas on how you can build that stuff out. My favorite thing about this game is if you go into the settings, there's an option for which death word you want when you die.
What?
Yeah,
I never saw that.
You can change it. There's one that's like, it just says end. There's one that says death. There's a handful of them, and it's whatever word shows on the screen when you die.
Okay.
I'm like, that's an
weird
important option to have. So I appreciate that they went the extra mile for that.
Just as a reminder, this game doesn't have anything to do with peeing in the snow, right?
No.
Okay. Every
Warm
time you say it, I'm
snow
like, I think that's what he's
is
talking about, but
The warm snow in the game are White Lotus petals.
Mm.
And they're like blanketing the entire region.
Huh.
Snow.
So it's not blood.
Yeah, I assumed blood was the correct answer, but even that's
No.
wrong.
Yeah,
it still looks like
It's
snow.
white.
Yeah.
But it's warm. Interesting.
My next guess was going to be Ash, but you know.
There's
Sure.
a
That's a
cutscene in
good
the
guess.
Oh,
This-
Ash would have been a really good guess.
There's a
Mhm.
cutscene in the beginning of the game when a little girl like has some petals in her hand. She runs inside to her mom and she goes, "The snow is warm," and then they both turn into a demon and kill people. It's very funny.
That is hilarious.
let's move on to our next honorable mention, which comes from Chad. What do you got?
I believe this is Lost Ark. Yes, there we go, Lost Ark. This one was questionable just because if you want to be quite technical, this game did come out in 2019, but you would have had to VPN into Korea to play it.
Mm-hmm.
So
For our rules, it counts for this year.
Yeah. So it's an MMORPG and it's top down, so it's like Diablo-esque. I really enjoyed the pacing that they did with this game. The story was pretty swift if you just kind of put your nose to the grindstone and just played through it. And then once you got to the end game content, going from like there's different tiers that you could get into, and that means that you have this like this power level. So like if you've played Destiny or anything that has like gear score, there's different variable areas of like tiers for the gear score. So like I think 300 to 900 is your tier 1. Once you hit 900, you're at tier 2. Once you're at 1300, you're at tier 3. In order to get to tier 3, it's actually pretty quick. And then that's when your end-to-end game content starts coming in. But all while you're traveling through the tiers, you're playing the end game content, the stuff that you usually want to get to in MMORPGs, like raids and the special dungeons that you can do with the groups. There's a mindless thing that you can do every day called a chaos dungeon. So there's just a bunch of mobs coming at you and you just slay them out with your abilities that look really flashy and cool. All of the characters look super flashy and they're fun to play. There's a couple that are a little bit iffy, but I mean, you could choose a berserker and slam a huge sword down and have an arc of fire just blow out in front of you, or a sharpshooter who you snipe 3 different sections of the screen and all of those mobs are just destroyed. Then there's the caster, which has a bunch of magic that gets thrown around, and all the mobs are just constantly getting destroyed. Like if you're playing Path of Exile or Diablo, so it's a cool game. Put some hours into it.
It's the only MMO that has held me for like more than 10 hours, other than Destiny, if you count that.
Can you
Sure.
count
It's
Destiny?
pretty good. There's
Destiny's
arguments
questionable.
about whether or not Destiny counts as an MMO.
Arguments for or against.
I actually put 10 hours in this game.
Wow.
It's it's just solid gameplay.
It is. I think
Diablo
it's the
style gameplay
only.
is fun.
I think it's the only MMO I've played that's been like fun to play.
Yeah.
Usually, I do an MMO and I'm like, I'll just slog through it, and then I'll get to like the multiplayer stuff, like the parts where I
Mhm.
can do like raids or whatever. But this one I like played single player, and I was like, you know what, this is actually decently fun. I'm having a good time.
And once you get a few hours into it, it has some actually really cool missions, campaign missions that do some really cool stuff.
It gets very anime at parts.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like from
and-
the start to the end, you mean?
Yeah. They definitely like giving references. Like the Soul Fist definitely has just straight up Goku Spirit Bomb as their ultimate attack. That sort of thing. And I actually really enjoy the leveling and the story throughout the game, because it feels like they throw in literally whatever they could think of is in that story. Like the first whole section of the game is like this medieval, like standard MMO area. And then you do like this insane set piece where you storm a castle versus thousands of enemies, and it's super fun. And you kind of rescue that area, and then you start sailing the world. And there's story sections in like an island with like mini people, and you get like all miniature, and you're riding bugs around. And then there's a story piece where you're on like Asian land with like traditional Asian architecture and like Buddhist references and like the monk combatants and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of like spiritual notes to the story. And then you move on to another area that's just like, yeah, we're just like, we got mechs here. I don't know. Like we're way farther advanced in technology than everybody else for some reason, but they wanted to put mechs in the game, so they're there. And
You can't forget about the pure dwarven area.
yeah, it just whatever they wanted to put in there. It was like, should we fit this in the lore? No, just put it in there. I don't know. It's great. It's fantastic. Where it falls apart for me though is the super grind at the end of the game, where it's just like it's built to want you to log in literally every day so that you can get your dailies done and grind your materials out so that you can upgrade, so that you can do the fun stuff finally. But
I really appreciate how they do, and this kind of touches on your issue, alt characters.
Sure.
Because there is a huge grind at the end, and it's basically you need. I'm blanking on what they're called, so I'm just going to use placeholder names. You need like blue gems in order to upgrade armor pieces. But on top of that, you also need honing blue gems combined with it. So you need two different resources. And where you get those resources is doing 2 chaos dungeons. So you get a ton of the blue gems. And you do 2 guardian bosses. You get a ton of the honing blue gems. And then you could do like abyss dungeons, or other content that way, or islands. So you could do a ton of islands, which will give you a crap ton of those resources. The thing is once you do that content, if you're smart enough and you save a bunch of those resources, you can send them to an alt character. So once you have basically gotten to level 50 and you're past tier 1 into tier 2. You actually have this little place called your home instance area, and you can actually train your characters up to 50 just straight away. You don't even have to play through the game again. You just create a character, play through the initial prologue, and then boom, you have another level 50. Send the gems to that character, and then boom, you're already in tier 2. So
that's incredible. That's a really nice way to bypass having to grind again.
And the thing is they also do this, which, I will give this to Alex. They do this because once you have those 6 or 7 or 8 characters, you will basically log into each character and you will do 2 chaos dungeons, 2 guardian raids, and you will do that on all 8 characters, and you will send the resources that you get to whoever needs them. Whatever character you want to level next. So I actually have, I think, 2 to 3, I think it's 2 1300s a couple 900s, and then 300, 400, etc. So there was also a ton of events that they did to give you a lot of honing materials. So the thing is once you start getting into tier 3, the percentage of success, and this is where like the pay to win kind of enters the chat, starts to reduce a lot. So instead of it being like, all right, I have a 50% chance to, get this next level up, it starts to be like 2%, 1.5%. So you're sitting there and you're like, all right, I just grinded out all of these materials. Now I'm going to go over, I'm going to strike one time. I have failed. Okay. Well, back to the grind.
All right, on to the 5th honorable mention, which is Jake's ring light.
Yeah, I know. It's a
didn't-
disaster over here. It's okay. It's fine.
I also didn't realize the sweatshirt you're wearing, which is perfect now.
Yes, it says I gotta stand taller. It says video games
Because
because
that's it.
what we're talking about.
That's right. That is true. That's very true.
But my first honorable mention is Rogue Legacy 2. This game technically came out of early access this year. It's been in early access for a while. But it's just damn good. It's just a damn good roguelite. Obviously same guys who made Rogue Legacy 1. They also made the criminally underappreciated Full Metal Furies.
Yes.
And they make a hell of a game. There's a lot of really fun classes in this. I think one thing that I appreciate the most about this game is that every class plays so differently. Basically, every class has like a very specific way that they can do a critical hit. So like if you have a barbarian, they do this really slow, big swing as long as their feet are planted on the ground. They're not like jumping or anything. And that's always guaranteed to be a critical hit. If you have like a gunslinger, the last like 10 bullets in your magazine, guaranteed to be crits. If you're... I don't remember the mages. If you're like a fighter, I think it's after you block a hit, your next hit's guaranteed to be a crit. Some classes have like a sweet spot on their swing that's guaranteed to be a crit. And so each class, even though you're always like running around, jumping, swinging a sword, the specific way that you need to approach combat is so different every time. And I think it's just really fun. It's got a good sense of humor about it. It's really big. I never finished it, which is part of why it's only my honorable mentions. Yeah, it's damn good. It's hard, which is another part of why I never finished it.
It's quite hard.
I feel like there's a lot of like difficulty spikes, like area to area. You like get through an area and you're like, oh, I'm feeling good. And then you go to the next area and you're like, I feel awful. This is impossible.
Yeah,
Part
actually,
of it is just learning the enemies, and part of it is actually it's just more difficult in those areas.
Yeah.
Do more damage and stuff.
I was just gonna say I tried really hard to push through one of the difficulty spikes, and then eventually I just decided I'm not gonna beat this and just gave up.
Yeah,
Aw.
I mean, it also very much like Hades. It's one where you build power. So after every run, you get like gold. You bring it back to your base, and you can put it into power ups. So a lot of times, like if you get stuck, you could probably just grind for an hour and just get strong enough to go through. Which I don't know. I'm kind of torn on. I don't love that. I'd rather it be like possible. But I mean, that's just me. But it's
Use
a
a
damn good game.
difficulty slider maybe for that purpose.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's a fun game. It just,
Mhm.
didn't quite make my top 5.
Yeah.
Or top 6, I suppose.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten into it a lot, but I think it has a bunch of kind of post completion stuff to do too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like running back through the
Furies
game
type stuff?
multiple times. Not to that level, no.
Okay, because that
Not
was
that cool.
nuts
Yeah.
at the end of that game. Okay, all right. Just checking.
Unfortunately, they probably won't do that again because it failed so much.
It tanked so
Yeah.
hard. Yeah. It's a shame. Full Metal Furies was great. Can we, you know what?
Yeah.
My actual honorable mention is Full Metal Furies.
Yeah.
More people should play that game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next honorable mention coming in from Owen.
Yeah, it's a game called Freshly Frosted. It's a little puzzle game where you place a bunch of conveyor belts and get donuts to have icing and get served to customers. I enjoyed the hell out of this. It's very fun. It's very relaxing. There's a lot of donut puns, which is also entertaining. Like, this is just a very chill puzzle game to play when you've got some free time and you want something that's not very stressful. It's very pretty to look at. which is also really nice. I was very pleasantly surprised when I found out that it integrated with my keyboard, which I wasn't expecting. And so then all of a sudden, all of the colors on my screen were synced up to all of the colors on my keyboard. And I thought that was really cool. I know that's a thing that like a lot of games have, but just seeing it for the first time in something like this, especially, I was like, oh, how neat, how cool.
This should be game of the year at this point. Sync to the keyboard lights. That's crazy.
It's pretty insane, actually.
So is it like more like a Factorio or more like a individual puzzles, like a Opus
Individual
Magnum
puzzles.
or-
Yeah,
okay.
individual puzzles, yep.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I played a good amount of this game. I like conveyor belts, so this game was pretty good, I think.
Like
Okay.
conveyor belts.
I want to say on record before we go further into this that this is the first year I think every game I'm going to talk about someone else on this podcast has played.
Right?
Like for the first time ever, I'm not just picking random games out of nowhere and everyone's like, nah, I've never heard of this. What the fuck is this game? So I'm
Well
very
done.
excited that we finally have a cast and I'm like, oh, hey, look, other people know about this thing. But yeah, it's a fun game. People should check it out. It'll probably be on Steam sale for like $5 or $10. It's not a very long game. I feel like Alec might argue that it's not even a game, it's just an experience because you only can
Okay,
like
it's
play
definitely a game. We need to stop being hurt over what was even that game?
Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Sayonara Wild
Party
Hearts.
person.
Not even, gosh. You know what? If Immortality was on this list, I would argue the same thing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Indeed.
Spoilers for
We'll just-
Immortality
we'll
not being on this list.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Next honorable mention comes from me, and it is a Dome Keeper. We played this at PAX. Was that last year? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
feels like
think you're right.
ages
Yeah, I think it
ago,
was.
but yes.
Dome Keeper is a game that developer was convinced to make because people loved his game when it was on whatever that itch.io or what is that?
Yeah.
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 You got it.
Dome Romantic was like a small game you could play. In fact, I played a lot of the demo before Dome Keeper came out this year. For some reason, I really like this game. I've played 15 hours of it. It is a roguelite mining game with basically you land on a planet as a astronaut. You have a little dome you're protecting from waves of monsters, and in between waves, you're digging down and finding resources to upgrade your dome and or upgrade your jetpack or your your amount of oxygen or the resource management. Maybe you get like an elevator that pulls resources from down below. The objective of the game is to find some sort of object that's hidden down deep in the planet's crust. And so you're kind of like just, mining around, trying to find where this object is. In the meantime, you're finding these nice little relics that provide upgrades to your base. Maybe it upgrades your laser or the durability of the dome or the speed at which you can move things or the slowness of monsters, like how fast the waves come. I don't know why I love this game so much, but it's just such a casual, fun game for me to play. The wave-based aspect of it, the sort of dig, defend, develop, like those three elements of the game and the way you play, and then there are a lot of secrets buried in this game. So the longer you play, that's where the roguelite elements come in. You can make permanent modifications to both the map or the dome you're playing with, or the type of weapon or tool, or the operator that you're using, because there are two operators as well. So there's a lot of, I don't know, it looks pretty. It's a lot of fun to play, and there's just a lot of depth to it out of a game it's like $20. Love it, absolutely love it.
It's a lot of fun.
It's great. The reason it didn't make it on my list was all I was going to say is that it's just a small game. It's not, there's not a lot to it. It doesn't have anything that's just like absolutely mind-boggling, but it was still a blast for me to play.
I have kind of one major issue with this game. It has a few, maybe not more than a few, like trap upgrades. Well, I would consider trap upgrades. Because you like pick them and you're like, oh, that sounds good. And it's awful. Man, it's like the sword dome.
It's
never
the
take the
worst
sword
thing
dome.
in the game.
It's terrible. Also,
How do
the teleporter that transfers materials, awful. It does like one every 5 minutes. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad.
There's
you
just
gotta
like
upgrade.
quite a few of those that I don't like that in my roguelikes. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
the thing is too, it locks you out of other pathways too when you pick some of those, which is the real problem. So you can't ever go back. But you know, I guess once you find the right pathway, once you find the right combination of things, you keep playing that way.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of roguelikes that have bad upgrades, essentially. Even Binding of Isaac has a bunch of bad upgrades.
Yeah, what's chocolate milk? Is that what it's called? The one where
Soy
you
milk.
Soy milk, that's what it is. Wow.
I mean, we talked about PlateUp. PlateUp has the same thing. We literally have lost games because we bought upgrades. We bought upgrades that made it so people were more patient or that they would take longer at tables. And so in our line outside, people just never left their tables. So we lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
I guess it is a kind of a common problem.
Yeah. I mean,
this game has so few upgrades, it feels even more of an issue, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. The good news, the developer's pretty active, so they've made already a ton of changes to the game, which is good. As far as I'm aware, the Sword Dome is still available. I don't know why you would play the game. If you guys have never played this game and you want to try it out, just let me know. You can try the Sword Dome. It is the hardest to control weapon in a game I think I've ever used.
Wow.
You imagine like it's just a sword, right? That you're like swinging back and hitting things. Oh, no. It is that, but also you shoot the sword out and then you control the sword's direction while it's flying. And then it retracts down the little line that you shot out, almost like an arrow with a string. But
I mean, it sounds like maybe you just gotta get good. I don't know.
Oh, maybe so.
Now the answer is use any other dome.
Yes.
I mean, sure, that works too.
Up next, honorable mention, Alex, do you have a new game?
Yes. And it was Nobody Saves the World, I think. Yes. Okay.
It's on. We have a
It's
list.
on the
We
list.
have it.
It's in
Okay.
order.
Just look
I don't
at
have
it.
the list up because it's a white screen and it screws up all my lighting.
You
My
just narrow it
God.
really far, put it way on the left. It's fine.
Or turn on dark mode. Make it
Can't do
dark.
dark mode for Google Docs.
You can't choose an Opera
Oh
GX.
my
Today's
gosh.
sponsor.
It doesn't work for me.
It works decent enough. That's what I'm using right now. Anyways.
Nobody Saves the World is a game I played with Caleb mostly. It's entirely. It's a two-player co-op like action RPG type game. The gimmick is you're like this nothing person, this little white guy that you see here in the center, and you can like turn into a bunch of different forms to do different styles of attacks and special abilities, and you can swap those on the fly. Like you have a couple of different presets that you can apply at any given time and swap between those characters, so it makes like really dynamic combat, I guess. And it's just got like goofy writing. It's got good characters. It's surprisingly deep in like the builds you can develop with the different enemies that you take on to control. So
Yeah, as you unlock like new forms, it puts a bunch of essentially mini quests for each form that you're playing as up on the side, and you're constantly grinding out those quests and unlocking new forms and stuff. And it's a really fun kind of cycle for unlocking the new abilities and stuff.
yeah. And as far as why it's not in the main list, it just, I don't know, it's not as good as other things, I guess.
Is that going to be your reason for every one of these games? It
This
didn't make the
sucks.
list
Good
because
reason.
it's
I don't
not as
know.
good as the 6 that are up there.
I didn't like it as much as other games I played this year. But
I don't
there's
think you
no.
have to have a reason.
Aaron said we had to have a reason. We had to have why it's good
I
and
didn't
why
say
it's not in the list.
You had to.
I didn't have
I
a
mean,
reason for
I didn't
Warm
say
Snow.
anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't say anything about Freshly.
Wow. All right. Cool game. Yes. Nice job. Good job, Alex. I'm so proud. That's very good. You have a reason twice now. That's yes.
I mean, a decent reason could just be that Alex and Caleb, I believe, are the only two who played it.
That is true.
And neither were super enthused about it, so I didn't end up picking it up.
No, if you can
Nice.
play co-op, it's a lot of fun. You should do it.
Next honorable mention comes from Caleb.
Yeah, so my next one is Entropy Zero 2, which is a mod for Half-Life 2. It was released standalone on Steam this year sometime. There's an Entropy Zero 1, essentially. It's just called Entropy Zero. It's pretty good, but Entropy Zero 2 is phenomenal. You play as a Combine, and your goal is to track down Dr. Judith Mossman. It happens pretty much parallel to the Half-Life 2 and Episode 1 and 2 campaigns. So you visit a lot of the same places at the same times. Just, you're usually on the other side of a wall you can't get through to see, the main character from Half-Life. I've suddenly forgotten his name.
Gordon Freeman?
Thank you, Gordon Freeman. Thank you.
What?
I just blanked on it. But it's got a new weapon, it's got some new mechanics, and the story is just so good. It almost feels Valve quality Half-Life game. It feels like Half-Life 3, essentially.
Wow.
It has a lot to do with the things you learn at the very end of the Half-Life Episode 2 stuff. It plays a lot on that. And it's just really good.
So is what you're saying, this is not a Darling in the Franxx spin-off game? I was thinking a game starring Zero Two. It's a good joke if you've seen that anime. If you haven't, it didn't make a lot of sense. But
It's really good.
I laughed when I thought of it, so you're all welcome.
Wait, so I'm really confused how these games ever actually happen, because it started as a mod and then it's got a full release on Steam, and it's...
Think about PUBG.
I mean, it's just... Yeah. It's just purely...
I think Valve's been like, you know what? We're never going to release Half-Life 3. People can play with Half-Life now.
Just fuck it.
Okay. All right, sure.
Because there was some other really shitty Half-Life game. Hunt Down the Freeman, thank you. Yeah, and it's universally reviled. Everyone hated it.
And that one costs money.
Released on Steam, costs money. This is free? What the heck?
And it's phenomenal.
Huh.
Amazing.
Valve has always seemed like pretty lenient about what they let people do with their stuff.
Yeah, they have.
You'd think, Half-Life is like, except for maybe Portal now, their biggest IP?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It feels like they should be protective of it and maybe make another Half-Life game that doesn't require a VR headset.
That one they should maybe do. Yeah, their argument has kind of been that Half-Life 3 couldn't really live up to the hype that Half-Life 2 has created. And I think this mod is proof that it could, absolutely.
Really? Wow, it's that good that it can...
It's really, really good.
Huh. That's cool.
It's not on my top
like a game.
because it's a mod, and
yeah.
It's also just games have been better this year.
Yeah.
It's like a game we
It's
need
not
to
as
check
good
out.
as the other games in the list.
Oh
I
my
would say.
gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. Next honorable mention comes
Call
from
of
Chad.
Duty Modern War. Wait, what's the title? Hold on.
Nope. It's... You got it. I believe in you.
Well, hold on. Call of Duty. What is the R?
R.
What is
Just, you can say
Just
registered
R?
or R.
Registered? Okay. Call of Duty Registered. Modern Warfare 2 TM. Isn't it Warzone 2.0 and DMZ or something like that?
Yeah, it's Call of Duty R, Modern Warfare 2 TM, Warzone 2.0, DMZ Beta. Because I think the full title of the entire
I think there's an extra
thing.
TM in there too.
I don't think so. I don't think there's a Warzone.
Isn't
There's the second one. Yeah.
Isn't Warzone TM?
Is it Warzone TM 2.0?
I think so.
Dang. All right, Call of Duty R, Modern Warfare 2 TM, Warzone R 2.0, DMZ Beta.
Yeah, it is Warzone TM 2. Wow, that's ridiculous. Okay, so let's actually talk about why this is on my honorable mentions. Well, it's not. I just couldn't bring myself to try to argue this as a game of the year. It's a Call of Duty. It's pretty much the same gameplay, except for they reverted a lot of like movement and weapon control and stuff like that. The reason I put it in my honorable mention isn't actually for any of the multiplayer Warzone or anything like that. The campaign I thought was actually really well done.
Mm-hmm.
The first campaign in a while from a Call of Duty that actually gripped me and had me from start to finish. I tried to play I think 2019 Modern Warfare. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that campaign at all. Like, I just thought it was kind of lackluster, and there was like different missions in it that were just kind of like stale. But the choices that they made in this one, such as like there's one that stands out to me where you drop in, you just got double crossed, and you have absolutely no items. You're just fists running around a city, and you basically go and find scraps and stuff, create like gas bombs, decoys, pick up a knife, and you just pretty much scavenge until you're able to make your way out of that town while you're being hunted by this like force that, should be able to find you but can't. But yeah, just all the way throughout the action and the campaign, the pacing, it's really really good.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
Well, if you're going to talk about the campaign, you can. I was about to talk about multiplayer.
I was just going to say, I think the one thing that you said that really stood out to me was the uniqueness each mission had. Like, no mission I felt like, was like a previous mission you had played. There were so many different styles of missions. You have, a driving mission where you're hopping from vehicle to vehicle and suspended upside down with a rope from a helicopter, shooting a handgun at people. You have the mission where you're directing somebody to do sort of stealthily move through the map. I really like that. I think that's the fact that I didn't feel like it was just, all right, go here, shoot a bunch of people, walk through this place. You're going to hear a lot of like voice lines and that's it. It wasn't it. I feel like they branched out and did a lot of different styles of missions. And I think it delivered well.
This was the first Call of Duty that I got Caitlin into as well. And so we played a lot of multiplayer together. And it's actually, all things considered, it's the first Call of Duty that's come out in a long time that I've actually grinded the standard multiplayer. Most Call of Duties come out like 2019. I play it for a little bit and I put it down. Cold War, I played for a little bit and then put it down. But this one, I actually took the time. I went through all the camos and got the max camo, which is Orion. On top of that, Warzone 2.0, questionable decisions. If they take it in the right direction, it could be good. I actually do enjoy the map that they made. It's pretty big. It has a lot of POIs that, are better than Caldera. Mm-hmm. Also, the DMZ side of things, if they develop that out some more, since that's still in beta, it's an interesting take on the escapee game modes. So like your Tarkov, your Marauders, Hunt Showdown. I think they need an economy to make it worth playing. Something that once you bring high-valued stuff outside of the lobby, you can like sell it, trade it, build stuff. Currently, it's just you have a ton of money on you, and it's just experience. So you go from level 1 to level 10 or so, and that's how I got to basic level 250 before everybody else. And then there's one final thing, which is the raids that they're introducing. That seems pretty interesting. We played through a raid. We actually had a lot of fun with it, and interested to see more on what they can develop there.
It caveated is definitely not like Destiny level raid mechanics, or length, but it was still really cool. I was pretty impressed with the limited amount of time we spent in the raid. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely as close as possible in a military shooter. Like, you could do a lot more with your space jumping superheroes.
Yeah, orbs. It's orbs.
You could have orbs.
I think they did a good job. They took like a wide brush and tried like a whole bunch of different things with this game. DMZ to Warzone to multiplayer to single player campaign to now the raids and the Spec Ops stuff. I do think they missed on a couple things, like the UI for the main menu.
UI's
pretty
terrible.
big miss. Pretty big miss.
Yeah.
And the good news is I think they're like with the Warzone stuff with TTK and things like that. It sounds like they're really listening to developers. So maybe it evolves into something that's as enjoyable as Warzone 1 was. We'll see.
There's a huge patch coming on February 15th. Season 2, UI is going to be changed. Plating while running, loadouts are going to be back in, cheaper. Everybody's going to land with 3-plate vest instead of having to find 3-plate vests, which was a questionable decision at the start. So yeah, they're definitely reverting a lot to Warzone 1, which is it's funny because people are like, didn't you guys want a different game? But at the same time, it's like, I said this before when we were playing, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You need to build on top of it. And what they did is they took what was successful and they ruined it. And now they're giving back what was successful. So hopefully once they give that back, then they can build on top of that and build something that's cooler. Like, for instance, if they dropped Warzone 2.0 with the nuke system of 5 wins plus, nuke, that's something that's in the direction of, hey, we're building on the game, instead of let's make the movement speed -5 and let's make all guns kill in like 2 bullets.
Yep.
So anyways, yeah. So this is why it's honorable mention.
Next honorable mention comes from Jake.
Yeah, so this one was kind of a surprise for me. Ollie Ollie World. Technically, this is the third Ollie Ollie game, and I was never really into them. I found them really hard to do, like, really basic stuff. Like, just landing a trick, I felt like took a lot of timing and inputs. But this
Yeah.
one, they made it really, really approachable. Like, you can basically jump, do a trick, and if you don't push anything else, it'll just be like, okay, cool, you landed it, whatever. So it lets you kind of focus more on, like, you can build up to nailing a lot of the timing and getting your combos kind of figured out. I just really love its art style. It's really fun. There's a character everyone just calls Dad. He's just another skater guy who's like 20 years older than all the other characters, and he just hangs out with everyone. He's just like a cool guy. It's fun. It's goofy fun. You're trying to become a skate god and reach Nirvana. Like, what's not to love? It's good stuff.
Nirvana. I like that. Yeah,
Yes,
that's good.
It's
Shredding
really
Nar.
fun.
Mhm.
The one thing I will say is that there's a really big difficulty spike towards the end. Another thing that's really cool is each level you can complete the level doing terrible, crashing every other second, basically doing no tricks, and it'll be like, okay, whatever, you can go to the next level. But there's always like 3 challenges, and there's like score challenges to do on every level. And for like 80% of the game, I was knocking out every single challenge. Like, I would have to replay it a few times, but I could get 100% for every level. And then there reached a point where, like, I would do the whole level in one combo, reach the end, it would be like, didn't hit that score goal. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Like, I literally held a combo the whole time. That was so hard. And it's like, yeah, no, you're still like 10,000 short. I don't know. And so I was like, okay, I guess I can't do this anymore. I guess I'm just gonna be a scrub and just kind of skate by.
Yikes.
Skate
But
by.
It's pretty fun to just pick up and play a round or two. Really easy to pick up and set down. The one issue I kind of have with it, if you're playing it straight through, I think it's a little slow on teaching you new stuff. It takes quite a few levels before it teaches you new mechanics, and some of those you can do by accident. Like, I learned a manual like immediately by accident. But there's some stuff you can't do. Like, you can't wall grind until walls show up, which is, I think, in the second area. And there's quite a few levels in the first area to get through
I
before you
think
can
it
get there.
does. Usually, every area kind of has a new mechanic that it focuses on. But I definitely see what you're saying. The first few levels are really front loaded, and then it takes a long time. Like, there's something called like late tricks and like grind switches that are literally the last area. And they're also so fucking hard to do that I don't even bother with them. They're so hard.
That's why you can't get that 10,000 extra 10,000
Honestly,
points.
it might be. I'm just not good enough. I just gotta grind it out. But
I did a grind switch one time by accident. I have no idea how I did it. Never gonna be able to
honestly,
repeat
I
it.
couldn't tell you what the input is right now. Same with late tricks. You gotta hold some button and basically do another trick input, and I can never do it. I've tried so many times, can't get it consistently. I don't know. Brain's too small.
The tricks in general are just fun to do, though. You just flick your stick around.
Yeah, no, it's
fun.
like basically you just like hold the right stick down and then let it go, and it flicks up, and that's an ollie. If you want to do a kick flip, you hold it to the right and then release it, and that's a kick flip. And then more advanced tricks, you got to do like a full 360 and then release the stick, and you'll do something else. There's a trick called I'm not gonna remember it now. There's a lot of really fun tricks in there. I don't know. I really like this game. It's really fun.
There's like a dragon flip that I always ended up doing.
Dragon flip is good. I also like each level has multiple paths, and a lot of times those challenges I mentioned, there are some that you can't do unless you take path A, and then there's other ones you can't do unless you take path B. So like if you want to get all the challenges, you've got to do the level like 2 or 3 times, which sounds annoying, but the paths are all so different that it's really just like I have a blast doing it, just going through trying to get a high score.
And
high-fiving Dad, whatever.
Okay. Next honorable mention comes from Owen.
Oh yeah, hey, it's this game called Stray. I think a couple people were playing it this year. You play a cat, and you're just trying to find all your cat friends. You're a cat in an apocalypse trying to find your cat friends. Again, it's one of those. It's not really a game. It's more of an experience because you can like play it in a couple hours.
It
Oh,
is
wait.
kind of a walking sim, though.
It is. I was gonna say, but it's fun. I really enjoyed this game. I really had a blast with it. I was very surprised how much I connected to the cat, and the storyline of it. Even though you don't have a lot of time, with the characters or anything like that. But I mean, I was getting a little teary eyed at the end. I'm not gonna lie, it moved me. And I think that's always a good quality of a good game, is that if at the end, you think about life a little differently, you feel a little different way. You know, I think that's a good quality to have in a game. It makes you cherish your life, or view things differently, and that's art, man. That's art right there. It's not farther into the game of the year list because there's not a lot that you do. You do really just kind of like solve a couple puzzles and just like walk from point A to point B while the story happens around you. I will say that's a fair judgment of the game.
I will say, because this is going to come up when we get to our top 6, most likely. This game won 2 Game Awards, one for Best Indie and one for Best Debut Indie. We should probably just keep that in mind.
It's because
what is Best Indie
undeserving.
and Best Debut Indie? That's stupid distinction if it's the same game.
True.
it's because cat and internet.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
it
that
100%
is it.
is.
It's a very
Also-
cute cat.
To be
Game
fair, it is a damn good looking game.
Yeah,
Which
looks
also
really
helps.
good. You really feel like a cat.
Oh my
when you play
gosh.
it.
Oh my gosh.
You can do cat stuff in it, like
I don't know,
scratch
man.
things.
God,
and
I
lay
love
down.
doing all the cat stuff.
I
Like,
watched
And
my
knock
2
stuff off
cats.
shelves.
I don't think I'll ever feel like them.
It's really good looking. It has great environmental storytelling. Yeah. That's it. That's all I had to say. I didn't have a third thing.
Nice. Good. Excellent. All right. Next honorable mention comes from me, and that is Dead Space 4. Sorry. The Callisto Protocol, which is a spiritual successor to Dead Space. This is what we would call, so I guess they call it a survival horror game, but it feels a little bit more actiony than survival horror. Alex, what do you think at this point?
Feels very action. Feels
Okay.
very action game.
Very actiony. I beat it in about 15 hours. Single player game. It's got a lot of actors in it for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah,
Why are there so many
right?
actors in this game?
Okay, I had no idea that real actors were in this game at all before I started playing it. And I was like, that dude looks like Starkiller. And
Yeah,
it was, the dude
It's
that
him.
plays Starkiller. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I know him from. But he's
And
in a
then-
bunch of stuff.
Josh Duhamel, and then the girl
Yeah.
from the Boys. What's her name?
Yeah.
Mm.
I can't remember her name. But anyway, there's just like a lot of recognizable faces in this game. Unique. I love the atmosphere in this game. I think it is beautifully designed. From everything from like the audio cues to the soundtrack that's playing behind to the lighting in this game, to just the overall darkness and gloom that you kind of feel walking across this moon. Amazing. The combat is kind of wonky, which is one of the reasons that I would not put this in my top. Mostly the dodge mechanic is the weirdest dodge mechanic I've ever encountered.
It's very strange.
Just click the
Seems
stick
weird.
to the left or to the right, but never do them
Take it back.
twice in a
Danielle.
row. Okay. All right. Well, it's weird. It's
I think
just,
the- The dodge mechanic does the game a disservice by giving you a free out all the time, as long as you can count left, right in your head.
Ooh, tough one. That's tough. I don't know.
Like the enemies become less scary because you're like, I'm just holding right. What are you gonna do? Oh, looks like nothing.
No. I just don't like that at all. Like make me roll, or I don't know, parry. Do one of them. It would be so much better. Here we are.
Hey, there's a block mechanic.
There is a block.
The block is terrible.
It's so bad.
I did enjoy watching Alex use the block mechanic on stream and go, this doesn't do anything. This is nothing. This doesn't
I'm
work.
just gonna go back to holding left and right because it's literally free dodges forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really. I played on the hardest difficulty, and it makes the hardest difficulty like just not hard until you get to
Could
later
you-
levels with the mechanics are.
Could you
different.
I'm playing on the hardest
legitimately in
difficulty
a
also.
fight hold left, and then once you get attacked, just hold right.
Yes.
Once you get attacked, hold and then just you could just sit there indefinitely, just doing
Yes,
that.
correct.
That's
all it is. It's really dumb.
It's weird.
And they even
Yes.
for some reason have a perfect dodge mechanic. I don't know why that exists.
What does it do for you?
It
You
like
did- You
Go
have to
ahead.
time it right. Is that you'd like
Correct.
hold it at the
Yeah.
last
if you
second?
do it the moment that they swing at you, it's a perfect dodge, and it gives you like the ability to swing quicker. It's almost
okay.
like a reality shift. Like it slows down times like just ever so slightly, and then you can swing quicker. I don't know.
I think that reality shift is the first word that you
Yeah.
went for there.
I think
I don't think
they're,
I've heard
um,
anyone say
particular
that in my
game
whole
recently.
life, but cool.
No particular games. Mm-mm.
Oh, is there a game that does that? That calls
Uh-huh.
it that?
We'll get to it.
Oh, okay. Spoilers, I guess.
I think the main thing is they really wanted the combat to feel cinematic rather than like
Mhm.
good to play.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks like it's scripted almost because of how you play through it.
It definitely does.
So
It is. It's like glory kill from Doom on steroids every time you kill an enemy. I mean, it is just a brutal murdering of an enemy. It looks amazing, but the actions to get there are not super complicated.
also the gravity glove thing. Whenever they give you a room that has spikes or like a spinning blade or something, and they put a bunch of enemies in it, it is completely trivialized by the
Yep.
gravity glove.
Yep.
Because there's like 8 dudes running at you, and you're just like, whoop, you're in the spikes, whoop, you're in the spikes, whoop, you're in the spikes. Okay, who's next?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. So I've been playing it as my experiment to try to play scary games on stream, and for me it hasn't been scary so far, just because I think a mix of playing it on stream and having people there to watch it, and then also just like how the combat you can kind of break in so many ways.
Have you gotten to the new combat mechanic that changes combat?
Probably not, because
Okay.
I can't think of what that would be.
Okay. The game, I will say the one thing about the dodge aspect is that combat changes at some point in that game. They add a mechanic that just makes it doesn't make it harder to dodge, but it makes the way you approach combat very different. So,
Also, usually in these games, you're supposed to be like very low on resources, and I feel like I always have healing, I always have ammo.
man, I didn't.
Maybe you gotta get good. I don't know.
I do
Just
gotta
gotta
be
hold
good.
left and right, dude.
That's
Yeah.
right, man. You
You
gotta stop
hold
shooting
left enough.
people.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you
All
just
right.
melee most of the time, and then when they give you the free shot, you take it.
Absolutely, you do. Next honorable mention, Alex.
Vampire Survivors.
Look, you looked at the list. I didn't even have to change it.
So
That's my
proud.
last one.
I'm so proud.
I don't know why you're trying to test me with every one. There's been so many other people that have gone where you've changed it before they said the title.
I'm sorry.
No one
I've been
else messed
watching.
it up as spectacularly as you.
True. No one brought as much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
This was kind of a breakout hit this year for a lot of people, I think. It's like $3 on Steam and is extremely simple, but it's just a survival game where you are racking up hundreds and hundreds of demon kills, and you're building out crazy weapons, and you're just kind of moving around, not attacking. You just kind of attack automatically. So it's extremely simple, which made it a little bit weird for me to try to include on a game of the year list, but also it's quite addicting, and also kind of took everybody by storm when it came out early this year.
Yeah, it's kind of a genre spawning game. There's a
Yes.
bunch of replicants now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other ones that are out there on Steam now trying to get in on some of this
How can you tell them
survivor money.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't have said replicant.
Yeah.
But I
You
did.
two
So here
guys
we
having
are.
a weird time today.
But yeah, for the price and for how easy it is to hop in and do a run real quick and see cool effects on screen and feel good about builds you're putting together, it's really solid package. And they just released a DLC not too long ago, which I haven't checked out yet, but
Speaking
it
of
looks like it
price,
adds a lot.
It is free on iOS and Android.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Wow.
And
Mhm.
it runs great, and it is single button input, because all you got to do is drag yourself around the map
Yeah, that seems
and
great.
choose your upgrades. It is excellent. I've been playing it on and off on my phone.
Oh yeah, that's what you were playing when we were down at the house.
Yep.
that'd be a great phone game.
It's good on Steam Deck as well.
Yeah,
A
sure.
little Steam Deck's overkill for it, but
Yeah, true. It used
Yeah.
to not run well until they got out into 1.0 and they changed engines, and now it runs great.
It's also got hooks to like keep you coming back. There's like permanent upgrades you can unlock and stuff
And
like
secrets.
that. So
Secrets.
I don't even know about
Got
secrets.
secrets. Hmm.
It's the good stuff, Alex. You'll get there. Okay. Next honorable mention from Caleb.
Strange Horticulture is my last game. It's a mystery puzzle kind of game. It plays out a lot like Papers, Please. So it starts out, you inherit this exotic plant shop. It comes with a bunch of unknown plants and a vague sort of guidebook for identifying plants. And you play this little puzzle game where you're using the guidebook and referencing the plants and figuring out which one does which and trying to figure out what they actually do. And people will come to your shop with issues that they need solved, like they have a rash on their arm or something. And you gotta find the right plant, offer it to them so that they can solve their issue. Or later in the game, you'll be sort of given decisions where instead of doing something good for them, helping them out, you give them the wrong plant, which, maybe makes their rash way worse because you don't like them for some reason. And when you help people out, sometimes they'll give you clues or messages that'll tell you where to go in your sort of free time when the shop's not open. You can explore this overworld, and they'll give you hints on where to search for new plants or where to search for new information on how to identify plants you already have. And the whole time, there's this sort of underlying mystery, a story kind of happening in the background that you get pieces of from the people coming in asking for things, and then they tell you a little bit about what happened last time you helped them or not. And your decisions on who to help, who to hurt, completely change how the story plays out. And there's this big finale at the end that kind of can go various different ways depending on how you play through the game. And
This
it's
feels-
just... Go
This
ahead.
feels like an Owen game. Did he put
I
you
know.
up to
I
this?
told him he should play it.
Yeah,
know if he
I've
ever
been told
did.
that I should play it, but I haven't played it yet.
It's
I feel like secretly
really
this is
good.
Owen's game, and he like blackmailed you into putting it on the list because he ran out of slots.
Nope. This is all mine. I
will
love
say
the underlying
setup
mystery.
of this. The setup of this definitely sounds a lot like Potionomics. Hey,
It
look,
does.
here's a shop of yours that is now your responsibility. Go deal with it.
It doesn't really play out in the same way because you're not like trying to make your shop really profitable or popular. There's no mechanics for that really. You're just either helping people or choosing not to help them and exploring the world. And I just think the underlying mystery that takes place is really cool and really interesting. How you get bits and pieces of it from people when they come into the shop. It's really cool.
Is that Keanu Reeves?
What?
guy?
I think
The starring Keanu Reeves, this game?
I don't know what that reference is even to.
it's to the photo. The guy on the right side of the photo for Strange Horticulture.
Oh, look like Keanu Reeves?
Slightly.
Yeah, I see it. I
I
see it.
suppose I can see it a little bit.
Okay, Keanu Reeves. Cool.
You can
Next.
also pet the cat.
Nice.
Next honorable mention. This is from Chad.
Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. Are there any TMs or anything in there?
I don't think so. I actually looked to make sure.
There is one at the end there in the photo.
There is a TM.
Yeah.
Getting all the trademarks.
Shoot.
So, this game, I'm your BR guy. I play all the BRs.
What?
Blood Hunt came out, and it was very unique on its playstyle. It had some similarities to Hyperscape with like movement and such, but then it was there was classes that you can choose. So you could be like the Saboteur. You could go invisible. You could throw a that's one of your skills, and your second skill is throwing a poison bomb, which will trigger if somebody walks near it. Or I think you can shoot it, so it could be like a smoke bomb for yourself. Then there was like the Siren, who basically you get close enough to somebody and you're a human flashbang. Your skin shines enough that you blind people. And then you can eat the humans because there's humans around the map that are AI. You eat them faster, and also it won't reveal you on the map. Because if you ate a human within eyesight of another human, you would basically reveal yourself on the new map, and people can see you across the map. Eating the humans give you the passive perks, and so there's like Sanguine, which I believe was. It's been a while since I played this, so Sanguine, which was you basically over time just regenerate health. Then there was they're all colored. So there was like a purple one, which helps your first ability. Then there was like a pink one or an orange one that helps your second ability. And then there was like another one that helps buffs your melee attack. You can only have a certain amount to begin with. Once you kill people, you get another node so that you can fill it up. So if you kill an actual enemy, you keep getting those nodes. So basically, you just, throughout your game, you're not just collecting weapons, you're also kind of buffing yourself passively, and you're using the skills and the cooldowns and stuff around that. The way the map kind of closed is that it was still just, a zone that closes in, circular. And then, forget if they had anything superb at the end. I don't think there was anything like a crown or anything. It was just, last man standing wins. The solos mode had a cool feature where you had 2 lives. So once you died, you come back after a couple seconds, and you're placed somewhere else on the map, and you have an AK. They hand you an AK, and you are able to go through, loot back up. You still have your perks, and then so it was very fast paced, very very cool to play. Sunk some hours into it. Most BRs I quit because I am kind of annoyed with the way that they were taking the game. Honestly, Bloodhunt never struck that way for me. I believe it had 2 things to do with me quitting. Was one, moving across the country, and so I just kind of didn't get back into the flow of video games and playing this game and grinding it until it was too late, and a lot of the community just kind of dissipated from it. I think it was very punishing for controller players. There wasn't a lot of aim assist, which I've heard they've rectified since then. This recent update, it's aim assist is insane. But yeah, the lobbies used to be like 19 players, and so it wasn't really fun to play anymore. Not necessarily that the development was bad, but people just, I guess, couldn't hang with the top player base. So.
Man.
All in all, I think a good, unique BR experience.
Every time I watched you play this game, it almost made me sick because of the mobility of this game. It seems like it's a tier above. It's like, What's that game you got really good at for a while before they shut it down?
It was Hyperscape.
Hyperscape, yeah. Same thing. Every time I watch it, I'm like, all right. Cool. Next honorable mention, which is actually a trio of films. This comes from Jake.
It's Immortality. We talked about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't put it on my list is because this is one that's arguably not a game. I feel like it's better described as like an experience. It's definitely one where the gameplay is like, I mean, like we said, it's basically just watching 3 movies in a random order and trying to piece them together. There's a little bit more going on with it. I guess I can spoil a little bit of it. Basically, as you're watching these movies, you find that there are these weird hidden clips that you can only find by like rewinding at certain points, and they're all really fucking weird. They're very off-putting, very confusing, usually very graphic and or violent. And the first time you find one, you're like, have I been misjudging this game? What is this game? What am I playing? So it has I feel like that was a really compelling hook for me, because at first you're trying to piece together what these 3 movies are about, and that's kind of interesting, but then you find sort of that hidden thread, and it's like, what is this? Like, what am I doing right now? And then I finished the game, and I went, I don't really know.
This sounds like somebody watched the YouTube series Marble Hornets and then created a video game of it.
Sure. I mean, I don't know enough about Marble Hornets, but it sounds like it's the same energy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for certain there was going to be some fourth wall breaking element like Doki Doki style at some point in this game because of the weirdness of what was going on. And then at one point we asked you, because you had gotten pretty far in the game, and you're like, yeah, if you're going to finish it and you don't really like it, just don't.
I mean, it's once you kind of get it, it's not like it gets
There's nothing else
better
that
or
changes
different, right? Yeah,
later.
it's got kind of that one trick, and once you get that trick, if you're still like, I don't know about this, there's no more tricks. That was the trick.
I feel
Does
like I
that-
spent so many hours finding those hidden clips, and like none of them still make any sense whatsoever.
That was gonna be my question. If they kind
It-
of mattered in the play.
Well, it's really interesting. I went and I watched a lot of theory videos, and I do wish I had just like 100% of it, because I feel like you kind of need that to piece it together. It's really interesting. I guess I can kind of talk about it a little more. No one really cares. Basically, sort of what it boils down to is, so those hidden characters, obviously, there's a lot of sort of like, I guess metaphorical significance to them. Like a lot of times it feels like they're sort of living out the desires of the characters they take the place of in the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But then in like a very literal sense, it's like they are sort of, this is gonna sound really stupid. They're like immortal beings who can like shapeshift and take other people's forms. And so they are sort of trying to guide humanity through art. It's implied at one point that the original like creation myth with Adam and Eve is something that they had created and tried to like pass on to humanity to like inspire them. There's like a whole thing at the, I don't know, did anyone see like the last clip, like what happens at the end?
No.
The main character gets like sits perfectly still in a chair, and another actress comes and sets her on fire. And then the very, very end, it's implied that like by watching it, those immortal characters are now living on through you. It's a really interesting game.
I feel like you joined a cult.
It does. I mean, it's yeah. I think that's fair.
Got that energy for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
So weird.
It's a very strange experience, but it's definitely unique. I can guarantee you, I'll not play anything like it ever again.
Interesting. Last but not least in the honorable mentions, this one comes from Owen.
Yeah, so in the less creepy world of things, I was playing this game called Pokemon Arceus, and I really liked it. I think it was the better Pokemon release of this year, just because it did something different with the franchise. It actually tried to move the franchise forward, and it changed how you collected Pokemon, how you captured the Pokemon. The focus wasn't just on battling anymore. There was even weirdly some Dark Souls elements with these like boss fights in it. And so I thought that was cool. I thought that was an interesting take on the franchise. I thought it was also very pretty. A lot of the kind of like Edo period Japan, art style that was coming through, and that kind of I don't know, like I just thought that was a cool time period to kind of be playing around in, rather than just kind of, oh, it's modern day, but for some reason everything's weird, and there's Pokemon. So I thought it was pretty solid, and I got a good kick out of doing it differently, and it definitely changed the lens that I look at Pokemon games with when I played through Scarlet and Violet. There definitely seemed to be a lot missing when playing that game because of the fact that it was different. It was like, hey, where was this? Where was the new catch mechanic? Why am I not getting rewarded for catching 15 of a specific type of Pokemon? Because then you actually have a reason to catch 15 of a specific type of Pokemon. I thought those were really good additions, and it was lacking in the newest game, and so it's kind of was like, hey, you did a good job shaking things up, and I hope that they kind of take some notes and work that into the future of the franchise.
I was telling the guys before you hopped on yesterday to talk through this that if you didn't put Arceus in your list, Brock was going to be really mad. I think he has. He's got so many hours in this game. He's just played it over and over and over and loves it.
I mean, I do think it's a lot of fun to just be able to walk into a tall grass area and just start chucking Pokeballs. You don't have to fight anything. You don't have to weaken it. You're just chucking Pokeballs. And then occasionally there's like a shiny, and you can catch the shiny. Like, I think that was the other nice thing is they had a decent shiny rate, in my opinion. Like, you actually could get them and you'd see them in the overworld versus Scarlet and Violet, which was really hard to get a shiny to pop up, and even if you did, you didn't fucking notice it because it didn't have any graphics or sound effects to let you know that there's a shiny near you, which I think is not great because sometimes you're dealing with, some shiny Pokemon are just like a shade different than the regular one until you evolve it, and so you don't get a chance to find it because you're sitting there, going like, is this Jigglypuff? Or is this Jigglypuff the shiny one? Who knows? There's like no way of telling because it's just a slightly different color.
Isn't that why you got to catch them all?
I mean, yeah, but if you're trying to catch them all, I don't know, fighting every single one and throwing Pokeballs at it inside of multiple menus is a really painful way of trying to catch them all, whereas Arceus, you can just chuck. You're just first person chucking balls, and I love it.
The last Pokemon that I truly played, I believe, was like Leaf Green. So that was like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Picked this one up and had a good time with it. I think I touched Sword or Shield for like a second, and I was like, yeah, this sucks. Moved on from that real quick. But yeah, I actually had a good while there of a couple weeks to a month of just, getting off of, BRs or whatever, going upstairs and just sitting on the Switch and playing some Pokemon before going to sleep.
Nice. All right. That is the end of our honorable mentions. We have 18 games, 3 each. Yeah, we are moving on to the more important list. Here's how it works. Collectively, we decided on 6 games to be in our Game of the Year list. This list was put together by a larger list of games that include our honorable mentions, plus some other things, and includes what we consider to be the best of the best, albeit in a currently unordered format. The way this works is we are going to start at 6th place and nominate games or submit games to be in that place on the list, and then collectively debate until we settle on the correct answer, which almost always is not going to be Alex's opinion. I'm pretty sure. But we'll see.
Hey, his number one won like 2 years ago.
Yes, it did.
I don't think any of the lists have ever been anybody's singular opinion.
That is
Everybody's
true.
always had some problem with it.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
I like the gray stuff you went with. 2 of them, I feel like you can guess what the games are.
Shut up.
Hey, what? No.
I don't know. That one looks like Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars is on our list.
Yep,
Thanks for the spoiler,
definitely.
Chad.
My bad.
It's the Last
The
Jedi.
Star Wars that came out this year.
Yeah.
That's it. You guys got it.
It's Andor. Andor's on our video game
Yeah.
list.
And
It's so good. It has to be a game.
it's our content of the year list.
Yeah.
Man,
Ooh.
wouldn't that be something?
Ooh, right?
ranking games against like movies and TV.
Let's never do
Yikes.
that.
That would take a while.
Yeah, that's good content.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to start at spot number 6. We are taking nominations for games out of this list of 6 that will be in spot number 6. And as we nominate them, they'll, of course, pop up on the screen. So buckle up for that. Anybody? Floor is open.
I am pretty sure I know it will be in last place from this list, and I think it's
Oh.
going to be Citizen Sleeper.
I concur.
Oh.
It breaks my heart because this game is great, but I think it's probably going to be 6 out of 6.
Who all here has played Citizen Sleeper?
I have.
I think 3.
Yes,
BJ
Caleb.
Caleb.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's
so
it.
3. Okay, so half of us. Okay, that's good. I thought
I
it was
think-
going to be like 2 people.
Which is odd because I think the first person from this group that bought it was Aaron.
It was, but I tried to
Aaron!
play it. Hey, listen, I tried to play it on the Steam Deck, And you
Big
cannot
mistake.
read the text on the Steam Deck, and it like wouldn't play well at all. And I have never gone back to it for some reason.
Oh, because you got a
You should go
bad
back
first
to it.
experience. You should have had
Yeah.
the first experience on your computer.
Well, I thought I would have a good first experience on the Steam Deck because, you know, it's nice. It felt like a game that I could take mobile and play it mobile.
Yeah,
Actually,
I'm s-
knowing
I'm a
about
little
the
surprised.
Zoom hotkey, you probably could have played it.
Oh.
There is a Zoom hotkey. No, yeah.
Well, I would nominate Neon White. But
Dang.
I
see
feel
that.
like I
We
might
can
be
do that.
disagreed with
As
easily. Yeah.
the number 6,
Mm-hmm.
you think Citizen Sleeper is better than Neon White?
I absolutely do. Yes, 100%.
do
But
we
I
want?
feel like
Let's-
we're going to be disagreed on. A little
Do we
bit.
want to let's someone intro Citizen Sleeper first?
Sure, I brought it up. So, Citizen Sleeper is basically a text-based RPG. You have a number of dice that you're given every day that you get to assign to specific actions, and the number that's rolled on the die equals the likelihood of the action being success, neutral, or a failure. And you have to strategically decide like where you're going to assign those every day, and you have to make sure your sleeper, which is what you are, you're like a robot, make sure your body stays in good condition so that you can survive to the next day, and make sure you've got sources of income and food and medicine, that kind of thing. And there's really compelling narratives that branch in all sorts of different directions that lead to a bunch of possible endings for your player character, and interesting upgrade paths throughout the game to provide you more options to pursue those goals. And it's just really well written, and the art is really good, and the music is really good.
Yeah,
great characters.
How good the writing is can't be overstated. It is phenomenal.
I usually don't like games like this. I want to like games like this, but I just can't get into it. But Citizen Sleeper freaking got its hooks in me. The writing is quite good, but that's, usually these games have good writing. I think for me it's got a brevity to it. I feel like a lot of times these text RPGs are like, let me regale you with 10 screens of text about this random NPC. And I'm like, listen, I just met him. I do not care. Whereas this one's like, this guy shows up. Here's like a really cool description of him. And he's like actively working on a robot. So you know he's an engineer. And he's just like, hey, do you want me to get rid of like the tracker in your neck? And I'm like, yes, I do. Oh, well, you got to do me this favor. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's, I can get into it immediately. It's a lot more accessible and to the point. Because I feel like these games tend to ramble a lot.
How about Neon White? Can somebody intro that one?
I mean, I brought that up. I'm a bad person to intro it.
So Neon White is a game where you get to feel like a speedrunner without actively being a speedrunner.
I hate to say it, when you play, you are a speedrunner. You're completing levels for faster times, which is what speedrunners do.
Yeah. And I think it does a really fun job of that. It like has these little kind of levels where you run around in first person. You pick up cards, and you can either use the cards to shoot, or you can use them as some sort of movement ability. And most of the time that you're using both, and to kind of get to the end. And then what you end up kind of doing is you start using them differently and chaining them together to kind of hit this beautiful, I'd say, like flow state of getting from point A to point B as fast as possible, and then trying to find, all of the different tricks and things to do it a little bit faster and a little bit better.
I think what I find really compelling about this game is a lot of the time it feels more like a puzzle. It's almost like a puzzle platformer where, like, yes, obviously you'll get a better time if you, like, are really good at lining up your shots, like getting to a certain point, lining up a bunch of shots while you're moving and jumping and spinning. But a lot of times the biggest time save is, oh, instead of going around this wall, if I actually go to the right and use my card here, I can jump over it, and that'll save me from going through this whole building. And it's like a 10-second time save. That's huge. And so that experience to me is really where it came alive. And I think it's especially apparent. There's like this whole visual novel aspect that probably very few people actually enjoyed.
I loved it.
But if you like, give them gifts that you can find in the levels. You basically unlock like personalized levels, and some of those like character locked levels are fucking awesome. The one character, Violet, all of her levels are like death trap themed. And it's basically like a struggle where it's definitely a puzzle where you gotta figure out where to use the cards to avoid the spikes, and then still have the cards you need later to like break down the door or whatever. And I loved that. I thought it was so fun trying to like figure out the optimal pathing through the levels.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that there's that whole side of the game, but there's also leaderboards, global and friends, and I got stuck looking at that, and I spent hours on like one level. There was you can actually see when you're playing through, if you have me as a friend, where I like just gave up doing that and was like, I got to complete the game, and so I went through and just whatever time I got. But towards the beginning, it's like I hit like really good times, and I get on this one level, and I just like get this really immaculate. Like there's one that I saw that on the friends list, 18 is one of our times, and then mine is 12. So it's like, what did I do differently? What's there? How is there that gap there? And then you start looking at the leaderboards, and it's like, okay, so I got 12. I'm like 99th place. The first place is like 9 seconds. What are they doing? And so that's the interest that I had. I truthfully didn't listen to a single line of dialogue in the game. So
that's fair.
Kind of flew through that. There's a button that you can hit. I think it's F, and it just fast forwards through the dialogue. And so I just every time it hit that screen, boom. But yeah, there's really cool levels. There's the levels get longer, and there's a lot more cards that you can use. Different flowing. You can use the pistol, which makes you like double jump, the sniper, which makes you dash forward, the shotgun that makes you dash forward in the direction that you're looking, and then there's like the submachine gun that makes you slam down exactly where you are in space.
Rocket launcher, grappling hook.
Yeah, there's a rocket launcher, and that you can basically use the left click to rocket launch. You can rocket jump, or you can grapple. And then there's the assault rifle that has the grenade launcher that you could, once again, grenade jump with. So it's a lot of cool, unique, different levels that you have to use, different scenarios of cards to find your way, like Owen said, in a flow state through.
It was definitely, going back to what you're saying about the leaderboards, I enjoyed so much opening up this game after work every single day and seeing, okay, how am I doing? And I'd see like Jake beat me on a level or Chad beat me on a level. And so then I'd go do it and I'd try to figure out how to do it a little bit faster. And so then I'd beat Chad, and then Chad would beat me, and then I would beat him. And we would just keep like shaving off a second every single time. And we just kind of kept bouncing back and forth on some of the levels until at some point it was just like, all right, Chad got this. Like you just gave up because like Chad looked up the way to do it or something, and he was just like 10 seconds faster than everybody else, and you were just like, yeah, I got nothing. There's no way in hell I can get close to him. And then you're like, all right, on to the next path. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was really, really cool. And it's one of the things that like I enjoyed about this game, and I wish that there was I would love to have like community built maps to continue to like go through maps and like discover playing through them again, because I think that would be cool. But also I think the other thing is that like while it's really good to be able to look up things nowadays and be able to figure out how to do some of these the fastest, I did really enjoy spending like 2 hours bashing my head on a wall trying to figure out how some people did stuff, and then having that eureka moment that Jake was talking about was just like, oh, you just go over here, and then you like all of a sudden you're now like 10 seconds faster, and you're like, wow, that's so much better than what I was doing before. Like that was a good thing to figure out, and that was a fun time.
So the system for like the hint on the level where you have to like be at least fast enough to where it's like, okay, now we've unlocked, you can find the gift. And then if you're a little bit faster, it's like, okay, now we've unlocked the player hint. And the player hint kind of shows you the general skip for the level. I think that's really smart. I think the only thing the leaderboard is missing for me, and I can understand why they didn't do it, but I really wish you could have friend ghosts to race against.
Sure.
I understand why they don't do that, because then it kind of gives away their route, which would make it a little bit too easy, maybe. But like,
It's probably also just harder to store that information.
yeah. But I think that'd be really fun, is to be able to like actually race the ghost of your friend.
Sure.
I think that, at least to the point of, it gives it away. It's like, I mean, you just look up a YouTube run of somebody doing it, and you already found half the skips then that they're using.
There's a difference between like going to outside sources and looking it up, and then just having it in the game. Like,
and to the point of, at least, both Mirror's Edge had your friend's ghosts in the game.
I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but if we're talking storing a number versus storing the entire path a character took, one of those is easy.
The Mirror's Edge is like a AAA title. This is an indie game from a small developer.
I definitely ran the levels a couple times trying to get a good score, and then after a while I took the puzzle out of it and looked up stuff, and then it was just execution at that point. I use this as like semi-aim trainer, essentially.
Sure.
So.
All right. Why is it terrible, Caleb?
I don't know. It just didn't click with me, really. I didn't have any driving force to continue playing it. Like, I would play a mission, go get the gift, and then I would beat it on the ace score, and I'd move on to the next one, etc., etc. And it just didn't really ever draw me in. Like, it was fun enough, but not enough to make me want to keep playing it beyond the hour mark.
Maybe it didn't get complex enough fast enough for you, maybe, to like hook you, because like some of the levels towards the end I feel like would be like right up your alley.
It could be
of like puzzle platformer type stuff.
I think Violet's levels, the ones I mentioned before, the death trap levels, I feel like Caleb would enjoy those. They're really fun.
All right, I think it's time to place a game in the 6th spot.
I think it's Citizen Sleeper. I love Citizen Sleeper, but I think it's Citizen Sleeper.
Yeah, even based on like how much we had to gush about Neon White just now versus Citizen Sleeper.
Oh, there's something I forgot to say about Citizen Sleeper. There's free DLC that's still coming out for it.
Yeah.
It's not done yet, so don't do what I did and play all the way through it and then get hit with a "Hey, it's coming soon" screen and get absolutely devastated. But there is free DLC for it, which is really cool. Yeah, I was really upset. I thought it was all done.
I will say, for the DLC, the free DLC, it's still written as well as the base game, but I found a lot of errors in it. It just needs like an extra pass, I think. Yeah.
Weird. It's also really hard.
Just like grammatical errors and misspelling and stuff like that, which shouldn't be in a game like that, probably.
Yeah, I wonder if it's already been patched. I didn't notice it, but maybe I just didn't notice it. I couldn't tell you.
So we consensus? Citizen Sleeper number 6?
I believe.
Fine.
All right. Citizen Sleeper going at number 6, boys.
One down.
All right. One down. I feel like we probably know what's going to number 5, but let's have nominations for number 5. Neon White?
I feel like there's a 3-way here, because then we're I mean, I feel like we need to talk about Tunic, Across the Obelisk, and Neon White.
Chad just nominating all of them.
Well,
no, I think he's right. I think these are the 3 that need to be sorted next.
Yeah.
I kind of think this is tough.
I don't think this is tough for me.
Oh, right, go ahead.
I think the problem is I can't really rate Neon White because I didn't play it. I don't know. It didn't. Whatever. I'm not a good judge of whether or not that's a quality game. Tunic was amazing. Across the Obelisk blew my mind.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that game is so good. Like every aspect. Okay, so first of all, it's like a card-based. What do you even call that? Card-based tactical game.
Roguelike.
Yeah.
Deck builder.
Deck builder. Yeah. It's a multiplayer. You play across several maps. There's like an underlying story with unlockable characters.
It's basically like a Darkest Dungeon with deck building mechanics.
But
Yeah.
guys, it's Slay the Spire. It's Slay the
Or
Spire.
Slay the Spire.
Like full stop.
Four
Like
players
the
Slay the
mechanics
Spire.
are almost like point for point the same. Like it's really good, but like it's Slay the Spire.
That's true.
I just love it. It just feels so balanced, but it also has that really fun component where it's like you get the Binding of Isaac, amazing build on one run, and it's like, oh, I'm going back. I'm gonna play this again. I can't stop. When I don't know what the damage number was that one time with Fury.
I don't know. It was over 10,000.
I want to say it was like 38,000 with one hit.
That sounds maybe
That's
right.
a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had 2 triple your Fury stacks cards, and we were on the last boss, and I basically killed him in one hit from like
33,279.
Yeah.
And the
Wow.
boss health total 6,999.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rip him, I guess.
You got obliterated.
Yeah, Across the Obelisk for me is a conundrum because if you guys have been longtime listeners of the podcast, I am your shooter, adrenaline junkie, like BR, anything that's not card deck building games. So Across the Obelisk, to get me to actually play multiple times solo through it,
Wow.
it's a good game. I don't know what I don't know what's going on with that.
Let me see what my playtime is right now, because we have put so many hours in this game. 82 hours. 82 hours.
I'm honestly surprised it's sub 100.
I have 102.
See, there it is.
Yeah.
Caleb has probably more than that. He's played a couple solo runs.
I might. 137.
Yeah.
Here's the
Game's
deal,
phenomenal.
though.
What?
I think Tunic is the best of these 3.
No, it's
I
not.
wholeheartedly agree.
I would
Yeah.
also agree.
Man, I don't think so.
It's my least favorite of these 3. I know I'm an outlier on that one, but
Is that a 3 and 3 then? That's not good.
we'll just put them both at 4.
Okay, so can we agree right now that Neon White's 5? Is that
I
basically
think
what we're
that's
saying?
pretty safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm okay
We're
with that.
putting Neon White at 5.
with
We're
this,
certain
yeah.
about that?
I think we're certain about Neon White being 5.
Neon
I
White.
don't agree, but I'm good with it.
You don't agree?
I mean, I did not like Tunic that much. Someone who likes Tunic, intro Tunic before we get into
we haven't
it.
really talked about it much.
We have not. Let me take us back there. So we're still talking about 2 games. We're talking about Across the Obelisk and Tunic. This is for 4th place now because we have Citizen Sleeper and Neon White.
Tunic, do you want me to talk about it, I guess, since
You've probably played the most
Sure.
of it and delved into it the most.
Caleb and I both 100% in this game.
I think I did.
Tunic is... I think you might have 100%. No. You did. You did
there's,
True
there's
Ending, but you
definitely
didn't.
a achievement that I didn't get because I didn't go back and play it again. But
Oh.
sure.
I did not, because I did not get the achievement where you don't get the sword and you just use the stick. That's the one I don't have.
So Tunic on the surface is a Zelda-like. You're a cute fox. You got like a Zelda reference green tunic. You got a sword. You got a little shield. It's very top-down Zelda game. And it is very effective at that. It is a fun adventure. The combat's good. The upgrades are fun. Items you find are good. The dungeons are well designed. And you can pretty much play it through the entire thing like that and end the game and see credits and you could be done. But then there's an entire another layer in this game, sort of similar to Full Metal Furies, in that there's a layer of puzzles to reach the true conclusion of the game. And I think the game is it excels so well at guiding you through discovery of these puzzles and solving them that it's kind of in its own league in terms of that. I think. And I think the final puzzle, the puzzle to open the gate at the end, is one of like the coolest experiences in video games. If you like solve all that yourself, you just feel like a genius at the end, and it is so satisfying the way it all pulls together.
The other crazy cool thing it does is it has a in-game game guide, essentially. like you used to get in your PlayStation 2 cases, where as you're traveling throughout the world, you'll find little pages, and it'll pop them into your game guide, and it'll have just a little text about various abilities, usually written in a language you can't understand. It's like almost impossible to decipher.
Yeah, that's something we've kind of overlooked. There are text boxes in this game, but nobody speaks English or
Yeah.
any known human language. So there's a sign and it'll be like squiggly line, sword symbol to the right, and you're like, all right, yeah, dude, sword's right, got it.
And as you fill out pages of this game guide, it'll tell you mechanics that have existed since you first opened the game, and it'll teach you how to use them, just not even in text, just by graphics, just by images.
Man.
And you discover all these things that have been there since the very beginning, but you had no idea how to do until you find the page for them.
I freaking love games that do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's man, so good. Like what's the
Celeste.
Yeah,
does it,
Celeste.
yeah.
Oh.
gosh, when
It
you
has
learn
a-
how to do that, like down
Corner
dash
bounce.
jump.
I bet, yeah.
This game has a major Celeste moment in that there is a secret hidden behind a puzzle, and the puzzle teaches you a mechanic that's been in the game the entire time, but you've never had to
Mhm.
use it before, and so you probably
that-
didn't know about it.
Opens up so many things.
Yeah, it's very cool.
To maybe illustrate my enjoyment of Tunic, it took me until the 5th time trying the first boss to finally figure out how to level up my character. So,
Hmm.
puzzles in that game probably were not solvable for me. I'll probably go back eventually and try it, but I don't think I was in the right mindset when I first played it.
Yeah, it does kind of require you to be in the puzzle solving mindset.
I will say for this game, for being developed by one guy, was so freaking polished. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true.
even the end game puzzles, like there's one puzzle that comes to mind that was overtly complicated, which is the one in the water.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even that one, it wasn't like it was like, beyond people's capabilities of being able to solve it or broken in some manner because there's no way to do it without looking it up. It's still all there and it still
Didn't
works.
one require you to translate the language?
It's that
Which-
one.
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
that I think is too far. I
True.
mean, that should be less a central mechanic to the true ending than it is
Yeah.
like a
Like extra, like part of the ARG on
alternate
top.
reality.
Yeah,
sure.
kind
I've always complained
Yeah.
about that one puzzle. That one puzzle's kind of too much for, I think, the
Yeah.
context of the rest of the game.
Yeah, agreed.
But I
Um,
mean, they just did so much with that game, and like to Jake was pointing out, like the language in the game is an actual fully functioning language that you can write out and decipher. Like that's an actual thing that they figured out how to do, and then the sound guys came in and figured out which each symbol would sound like, and then like hid different notes in the game, and that if you figure out what all of those notes and things are, that then when you hear like those kind of things played, it's actually telling you a word because each one of the notes is like a syllable. So it's fucking weird. And
Yeah,
like
there's actually two languages. There's a written language and there's an auditory language.
like the fact that they did that, and like I was reading the tweets of the sound designer, and he was just like, oh yeah, I didn't do that for anyone else, I did that for me. Like I wanted to do that. That was a secret thing hidden in there that I wanted to do in there because I wanted to do it. And I'm just like, go off, fam. Just like fuck yeah. I love the fact that they did that, and I want like more power to them of just like we put this in here because we wanted this to be here, not because we thought it was going to be good, not because we wanted to like stump a bunch of people or whatever. We just thought it'd be really cool if we did this thing, and it is really cool, and I appreciate you doing it.
There's tons of neat secrets. There's one secret where you're in this special area and you're kind of locked in this special area, to solve one of the puzzles. But if you use a different secret to summon yourself a firebomb and then kill yourself with it, you get taken to like this demo world that has like a bunch of unused enemies and like half-finished assets and like a different color fox. Like it's just like a bunch of like trial and error stuff that they're working on. It's so cool.
All right, I think it's time to place a game. Number 4.
Gotta be ATO.
Yeah.
That hurts me.
I mean, I do enjoy me some ATO, but I just feel like, as Jake pointed out, Slay the Spire, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will say personally, I enjoyed Across the Obelisk more, but in terms of like a game of the year, I don't. It's really good. Across the Obelisk is great. I have a ton of fun playing it. It is just Slay the Spire with some extra bells and whistles, whereas Tunic, I feel like, is it does something I've never seen in a game before, and even if it didn't 100% click for me all the time, it's unlike anything I've played before in a lot of ways.
Okay.
I think like half of the issue that you had with Tunic is that you had added time pressure because of your stream.
Yeah.
And then if you were playing it casually, maybe it would have been a different experience.
I think the issue is when it's like, oh, you got to solve this puzzle, and I look around the environment, I go, oh, there's the answer to the puzzle. I don't want to have to get out pen and paper and go, okay, is it this answer? And then I try it and I go, no, I guess. Let me try. Was that supposed to be? Is that a 1? Is that a 4? I don't know. The puzzles don't give much feedback. So like there were times where I would do the correct answer and nothing would happen. I would go, I guess I'm wrong. And then I would try a few different things. And then I would go slightly further left. And I would do the original one and it would work. And I'd be like, well, great. That was a good use of my time, game. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then, like, the last puzzle, right? So cool. It literally requires you to get 100 things right with no indication of where you might have done something wrong unintentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if you're like I looked it up because the idea of trying to figure it out, doing the whole thing and then going, one of those 100 was wrong. And I don't know if it's I wrote it down wrong or I inputted it wrong, because 100 things in a row is really fucking hard to keep track of.
I don't think looking that up after you've solved the puzzle is a bad thing, because that's not it's not solving, it's input, and that's all it is.
Yes.
It's either you transferring it by pen to the the sheet that you're drawing on, or it's you inputting it wrong on the D-pad. One or the other.
I got yelled at by Alex because of that. I was like, oh, it's the pattern that, one of the puzzles was like, oh, it's the pattern this guy's walking in. So I know what the answer to the puzzle is. It's the pattern that this guy is walking in. I just then didn't write it down. I just looked up what that pattern was because I was like, someone's already written this down, and instead of me sitting here with the pen and paper, like, I know that that's the answer. And so then I just like had it in front of me and then just figured it out.
That is probably my biggest complaint about the game is that delay between solving the puzzle and then being actually able to solve it, because there's like an obnoxious translation.
To be fair with Owen's complaint, that was like the 5th thing I'd seen him look up, and I was frustrated by that point. So,
all right, well, are we just putting this game at number 3?
Yeah. I think
Tunic is number 3.
I'll be
we
I'm not even
probably should let
positive
Chad.
it deserves 3.
Why did he disappear?
Wait, you want
higher?
it to be lower?
No, I maybe want to put it higher.
You want to put Tunic higher?
I mean,
No.
I'll put Tunic higher.
Hey,
I will
okay.
fight for it to be higher.
How about this? Can we agree that Across the Obelisk is 4?
We already put it on
we
there.
did that.
Yeah.
It's already on there.
We're
Oh,
good.
sorry. Okay.
So this
Okay,
is
then.
Across the Obelisk is 4.
Caleb, introduce the next thing we're going to talk about then. What
Wait,
do
wait,
you
wait,
think
wait.
should be 3? Oh, we're waiting.
I don't think Tunic's moving up.
I think you're the only person who's going to argue this, Caleb.
If I'm the only person, then we can just put it at 3 and move on.
I mean, I'll back you up, but I think it's just you and me. I still think we do not have the numbers to get it to 2, so I think it's just a 3.
Played the other 2 games, right?
I have watched people.
Oh, here we
I
go.
literally watched
Yeah.
them play all of what will be the number one game, so I could talk about it.
The Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
I know. If it's just me and Owen, we put Tunic at 3 right now. We just
put
move
Tunic
on.
at 3.
Yeah, Tuna goes to 3. Absolutely.
But personally, I would put it at 2. I think is what
I
think.
am
it's my
about to
second
be
number one.
really
That's
upset with
crazy
you,
talk.
no matter what you say.
That's
I will be
crazy
upset with you. All right. Well, it's on to the top 2, boys, and honestly, this is a real hard decision for me. I mean,
Is it actually
incredibly difficult decision for me. Yes.
so easy for me?
Yeah, it's it. I don't even need to talk about it. We're done. Call it a day.
All right, who wants to nominate, or should we just pop those 2 up?
You just gotta put
this is
them
the
up.
last 2. We gotta talk about
Okay,
them.
here we go.
Yeah.
We got, of course, God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring vying for the top 2
Oh.
spots. This is for second spot.
Oh.
I know, we're missing the game you thought it was
I
going to
thought,
be.
where's Dragon Ball Z: The Breakers?
That's
I thought
what I
that
thought.
was.
It
What's
looks like
going
it in the
on?
bottom left-hand corner, but then I remembered that was the wrong game. Even though we definitely put it on the top of the list, I was like, no,
Yeah.
something's wrong.
We'll
Glad you
get
guys
it,
read
yeah.
chat.
All right. But I don't even know how to argue these games. Somebody who wants to argue for a second position can argue this.
All right, I'll argue.
Well, someone intro Ragnarok,
so
if they would
Ragnarok
be so kind.
is a very story-heavy third-person action game that has some sandbox areas that are actually really, really fun to explore, and a lot of, this is going to sound negative immediately, but very slow-moving story sections.
There's a lot of walk and talks.
A lot of walk and talk, very much so. But base gameplay is quite fun. Third-person action, like I said. You have a giant axe that feels really good to play with. It's got heavy weight behind the sounds and the actions. And then you got your chaos daggers, because you're the God of War, which are quick and
Hey, those are the Chaos
flashy.
Blades, thank you.
Chaos
Yeah,
Blades,
you
thank you.
fucking
Sorry.
idiot.
I didn't play the early games. I apologize. But the Chaos Blades, which are flashy and fast, and a lot of fun to use as well.
And
And you got a
the
little
Dropner Sphere.
boy. Oh, okay, sure.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's like
We're in the
Okay.
spoilers now.
We're in the
bud.
spoilers,
Yeah,
guys. For
whatever.
one of these games. We're
hey,
doing
spoiler
spoilers.
alert. By
Yeah.
the
We're
way.
doing spoilers.
It's
It's
game of the
spoilers.
year
Yeah.
at the end of January.
Well, I think we can talk about both of them a little bit, and then we go into spoilers for both of them. But I guess we're in spoiler already.
All right.
You guys started talking heavy in a tunic, and I was like, I should mute if I'm going to play this.
So let me just say about this game, Ragnarok, there are very few games that pull me in emotionally like Ragnarok did and like God of War 2018 did. To me, it's on the same level as The Last of Us. I think the ability to storytell and the ability for the characters in the game to like pull you in emotionally, there are not that many games that I feel that way about. And every single character in Ragnarok, I have some connection to. I feel bad or I feel good about every decision that's made. It all feels really like visceral and heavy. None of it feels boring or lame or just added story components. Every line of dialogue, I never skipped a line of dialogue. I just thought the way it is written is like it's a story. You're just kind of walking through a story and living it out as these characters you're playing as.
Did you say none of it is boring?
Uh,
None
I
of
don't
it.
think-
Are you
I
sure?
don't think
Do you
any
want
of
to
it's boring.
revise that? Think back through your playthrough.
Nope. I don't think any of it's
starts with a
boring.
Y, maybe.
Yeah,
Nope.
the yak part.
It was
Yak.
slow. It was slow. I think sure. Maybe could they have
Sucked.
taken that one part out?
It
Sure.
was slow and way too long.
It was very long.
I thought it was fine.
Pointless. It's like
I-
3 hours.
I will have to agree that it was pretty long and it was slow, but I feel like it was very important to the story.
I feel like the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes were.
Yeah.
And then there's like an hour and a half in between those of riding a yak and picking shit up
Ah.
off the ground.
Real quick, I will say for people who have played God of War 2018, I think Ragnarok is a direct upgrade in every way.
It's the Doom Eternal.
Yeah, I think it's
the
better
guy
in
on this.
every
Sorry, go
way.
ahead.
No, it's
As the guy who did not like God of War 2018 that much, I think this game is a lot better The start is a lot faster. They give you a second weapon right away, which helps the combat from feeling too slow. I feel like the stakes are established a lot earlier. There's a lot less. Wow, this guy just really fucking hates his son, huh? There's a lot less of that. I feel like their relationship is at least for me, was a lot more interesting this time. Whereas the 2018, I'm spending the whole time like, is this relationship gonna go where we know it's going anytime soon? But yeah, I think it's better.
The co-op kills were like on par with how I felt about Goku and Gohan when they were fighting
father-son
Cell.
Kamehameha. You said that the other day.
Oh yeah. There's one part in particular at the very end of the game that I'm just like, oh.
The double Valkyrie fight where you get the sick pose where Atreus is a bear behind his dad. Oh my gosh, that was
freaking insane. Yeah,
I loved it so much.
Yeah,
I loved every moment of this game. Really, though,
I have to say, with the comment of it's a direct upgrade from 2018, out the gate, and maybe it's because of how fresh I played 2018. Like, I literally, on December 27th, bought 2018, played through it, and then Caleb was like, hey, you want to borrow on PS5? And I was like, yeah, sure. So then I started the next rendition, and I was like, I hate what they added to the game. As I started playing through, and now I'm like 70 hours in because of one particular fight, I can tell you that the additions that they did, I'm glad they did add, like the double parry and the blue circles that come in that you have to stun. Like, it makes the fights more interesting, and I feel like if they didn't do that, then yeah, it would just be another 2018, and it'd just be like, all right, we're in a theme park and we're just going along with the Disney ride, and it's just the story, and like, you know, this is the same gameplay. You know what I talked about with Modern Warfare, where they had a game and they should have built off of it. This is what God of War is. You know, Ragnarok is the game that they built off of, and they built off of in a good way.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, there's so many cool bosses in this game, and like one of the big critiques of the first game is that you fight the troll so many times, and there's a moment in this game where they bring a troll out, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then like Kratos just immediately cuts its head off. And it's just like, we understand you don't want to do this again. Like, we got cool bosses in this one.
Yeah, the bosses are so much fun in that game.
They are. They're way better. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they reuse some because, I mean, the game's really big, really long. They reuse some, but they always do it in a way that is a twist on the original fight.
Yeah.
I don't recall 2018's system boss fights being you get to a certain point, and then if you die, that health is going to remain that way. But there was a lot of fights that happen in Ragnarok that way, where basically you get to like half health, and there's like an animation that happens, and like, I don't know, Thor like shoots you across, you know, Narnia, and then now you're at a different location and you're fighting, and it's like, now when you die, you're going to spawn there. And I thought that was kind of incredible for the progression of the game because, you know, playing on the hardest difficulty and learning the new mechanics. And if I would have constantly die at the beginning of the boss fight and not have checkpoints like that, I feel like I would have been stuck a little bit.
Yeah, I think having like a separation between the two areas and then taking you back to the beginning would remove like all tension from the fight.
Yeah.
All interest you have in it, really. I feel
I'm also pretty sure they only do that for story bosses.
I think that's correct.
I think so.
Yeah, you might be right.
Which makes sense. Like, you want the lowest common denominator, like people to be able to get through the main story content. And then like optional bosses at the end, you can grind for, 10 hours like Chad's been doing.
I have a love-hate relationship with the introduction of Atreus being playable. I somewhat enjoyed his parts, but then after you're so used to playing as Kratos, like trying to pick up on the flow of fighting as Atreus is just so interesting. And they throw like pretty much the same mobs at you that Kratos would get. So I mean, it's difficult sometimes.
I very much
play style.
I do not like playing as Atreus.
I think it's like so refreshing to be able to go into an Atreus section and like having a completely different experience, even though you're going through very similar circumstances, and like he has such a different play style.
I think the issue is I don't like the new play style. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's also, like I said, where you come from 2018 and it's a game built off of a game. If they only had Kratos and that's all you were playing, and the mechanics of like the blue and the double parry, and that's all they added, like I don't feel like this game would be unique enough from 2018 to really stand alone. It's literally 2018.2 at that point.
I mean, sure. I think that's fair.
The two things I think I would say if I was going to like put a negative note on this game, the first one is I think at times the boss fights don't feel as polished in terms of mechanics as the other game we're going to talk about in a second. Multiple times fighting berserkers, I would just be swinging through them. Like no contact with the axe, no contact with the chaos blades, nothing. Just doesn't hit them at all. The reality shift, or what did I call it earlier? It's reality shift, right?
Reality shift,
yeah. Reality shift with
Realm
some bosses,
shift, right?
you just can't.
realm.
Realm shift, thank you. Realm shift, some bosses you just can't hit them during realm shift at all. If they're moving at all, you cannot hit them. They're not. You cannot impact them with any weapon, and that drove me nuts because I feel like I really tried to utilize it in high impact moments in boss fights when there's like a major attack or
bosses
like
have invulnerability states, and if you unfortunately use it during that, that's
I
the
understand that some bosses have invulnerability states. However, there is a very specific berserker fight where there are two of them, and they swap attention between you and whoever you have companion wise. And during that fight, even before they swap, they will just become essentially invulnerable, even though they're still capable of hitting you. So like maybe the game has changed the targeting to the other enemy, the other boss, but it also the first boss is still hitting you and you can no longer hit it. I could not hit it with any weapon at all. And that drove me nuts because this game, for being especially on high level difficulty, it is super technical when it comes to how you're going to approach a fight and like the mechanics of movement and what weapons to use at what times, and the fact that kind of is a little just missed spot there. I understand when you're fighting like big bosses and they're using their actual move mechanics where they're just like zipping around the map. Yeah, sure, they're invulnerable, but just normal movement, I should be able to hit them. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I never had that issue because I actually have used Realm Shift 0 times throughout my playthrough. So that's interesting to hear.
It's incredibly annoying.
I heavily relied on Realm Shift, and I don't think I ever had that problem really.
Well, you have to be really good and fast at playing this game to get to the point at which you're hitting bosses when they're invulnerable.
Makes sense.
The other thing I did want to say about this, and really this is not my point, I think this is Chad's point more than mine. He brought this up earlier when we were talking about these games put together as a package, 2018 and Ragnarok. Chad, you can talk about this or I can bring it up. Doesn't really matter to me. But
we talked a tiny bit yesterday while we were playing something, and I was like inquiring what they thought was going to be game of the year. And I had kind of noted that Ragnarok to me, like there's a lot that points towards number one for me, but I mean Elden Ring is like they're both really good. But the thing about Ragnarok is like if it didn't have 2018, like it wouldn't really be. So like it's kind of like Elden Ring is, and it stands alone kind of thing. And so it's like, it's in 2022. It's its own game. It doesn't really have anything that comes before it. Dark Souls stuff is just kind of like its own little entity. Ragnarok is like, it needs that build up for the story to be, as like Aaron was saying, emotional. It needs that, reveal of like Loki at the end of the first one, and like the mural on the wall, and like, where you dump the ashes, and it needs all that to kind of tell its story in Ragnarok. And without it, then you're just kind of playing this, which I've actually read that people have played this and only this, and they're going to go back and play the other one. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's an insane thing to do.
Yeah.
The fact that both these games tied together, like this game is probably, I mean, conservatively, you're going to 100% it. It's like 75 hours. 2018, I don't think was that long. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 hours.
Yeah, it was shorter.
Okay,
it might
so
have been less than
pretty
that.
quickly.
Just taking those numbers, and doing a little basic math off the top of my head, we're barely over 100 hours. I played Elden Ring for 130 and finally beat the entire game.
Yeah.
So the fact that both 2018 and Ragnarok packaged together are the same amount of game content that Elden Ring provides is one of the reasons I lean that direction towards Elden Ring. But I don't know. It's not fair to say, well, this is a bad game just because it doesn't have 130 hours worth of content.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it might have 130 for me.
My biggest complaint with Ragnarok is that the pacing is whack.
It's whack. Is it wiki whack?
Wow.
Yeah. You play the story sections and it's very slow, methodical, and then suddenly it's like, we're pausing this story, guys. There's this huge open sandbox to explore. Story don't matter for now.
Yeah.
Just go explore for like 15 hours and then come back and play the story.
There's
again.
Vanaheim,
one
baby.
specific part in a specific location called Vanaheim where a guy is maybe potentially constantly shooting a flare, and you could probably
How many
stop
flares
and
that guy
drop
has,
everything
man?
to go save him, but instead you do everything else in the location first, and then you're like, oh, I should
100% you
probably
do.
go save him now.
Yeah. There's like major stuff going on in the story, and it's like, maybe you should go explore with Atreus now that he's
I
back.
love Mimir doing that. It's so funny to me. And honestly, that's like one of the best parts about this game is I think when they wrote the character lines, they knew, like, they're like, all right, we're just going to play on how ridiculous some components of this are. Like when Atreus acts like his dad and he's like talking in Kratos' voice, or when towards the end of the game, he like starts talking in Mimir's voice and he's like, oh, I can't do Mimir. Never mind. Like those I think are hilarious.
One of the best moments was when Tyr was like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, my dad likes loot.
Oh,
Like-
yeah.
Yeah.
He does
Okay.
this from time to time.
They do that a couple times, like when you first meet Heimdall, and then there's
Yeah.
like something next to him, and you pick it up off the ground. He's like, "Sure, just take everything that's not nailed to the ground."
All right, should we talk about the other game, or Alex,
I
you have
feel
something
like
to say?
we're not done.
Oh, jeez.
We could
We didn't really
pause.
talk about characters, and I think it's an important part.
It absolutely is.
Narratively, I think this game is absolutely a masterclass, especially with character development, especially with villains in this one.
Yep.
Odin,
Oh my gosh.
just performance-wise, Odin is absolutely incredible.
That's probably the best performance I've seen in a video game. He's so good.
He completely owns any scene he's in, just tears it up.
Yep.
Just voice acting and performance, like Freya, when she finds you in the very beginning and she yells Kratos and like the walls collapse in, just like bone chilling. Like she's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the story stuff they get into, since Atreus can go off on his own and be in with like the villains for a while and like experience their side of things. Like the humanization of the force you're fighting against is such a cool effect. Like seeing that Thor is really just like this broken person that doesn't know how to get out of the situation he's in, and
I mean,
meeting
he's-
Thrud and like
he's
seeing that there's
literally-
people that are totally innocent on that side.
Thor is literally a mirror image to Kratos almost.
Right.
At that
Mhm.
point. I mean,
Yes.
he's under his father's thumb. He's he's bending to his father's will. He's his children aren't really thriving because of that. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you're sitting there and you're like, do I actually hate the Asgardians, or am I?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What's happening here?
Mhm.
I fully expected Thor to hate Thor, not as like a ooh, I want to kill Thor, but as like a wow, what a lame character. Because like the obvious way to play Thor is the big bully guy, but making that him parallel Kratos was such a smart choice. And
Mhm.
it's because the very first fight you have with him, it's so clear that that's what they're doing, and I was like, that is such an interesting way to take this. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we talked about that before we moved on, because it's such a huge part of the game and
All
such
right,
a
do we
big
talk
reason why
about-
I liked it.
The most important character, Ingrid.
Uh-oh.
Ingrid, who turns out to be Freya's sword. It's
That was a really good, when he's like,
really
wait,
good way.
wait a second. Just wait. And he just holds his hand up in there. I was like, what's coming? What's coming? Oh, I know what it is. Oh, whew, give me chills. I just finished this game like 3 hours ago, so like, it's fresh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like cutting down to the wire there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how much content. Like, I've just been playing it and playing it and playing it and playing it. Oof.
Also, to speak to Caleb's issue with pacing, I feel like they kind of like contextualize that in the game where it makes sense, because like they do a certain amount of stuff every day, and then you go back to the house and you sleep. So like they're not doing the next major thing until the next day. So like if you're out here in the crater today,
30 hours long though.
I mean, depending on...
Mimir at one point does say he's seen Kratos up for like 3 or 4 days without a wink of sleep, no problem.
It feels like you're playing 2 different games when you get to those sections. It's like, okay, now it's time to stop playing the story game, and it's time to play the really cool exploration piece.
It's an endless issue with story games and stakes in them. Like Mass Effect always had that issue.
Yeah,
where fate of the universe is at hand, but we wanted to have like cool stuff for you to do in this video game. So here's cool stuff for you to do in this video game.
Yeah.
Kind of going with the pacing, actually. The amount of time you spend climbing or squeezing through small gaps.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, yeah, I could have just ran there, guys. Just like put a door in the way or something. I don't fucking know. I don't want to climb this mountain for the next minute.
Stop making me climb things.
I feel like they improved from 2018 though, because I just played 2018 like Chad did, and in 2018 they didn't have the mechanic where you like look up and you're like, oh, I'll just jump to the next one, and then you look up again, you're like, oh, I'll jump to the next one. No, in 2018 you climb the entire wall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In Vanaheim, there's that section where you climb up the wall, to the right a little bit, and down the wall.
Yeah.
I think
do that.
My favorite is when Atreus gets to this really big wall and it's like, I guess I'm gonna climb it, and I was like, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit this fucking game right now. You're joking.
The majority of it is just contextualized loading screens, right? Like,
I mean,
just put a loading screen, man.
I don't think that's better.
I think it is. It'd be faster.
I think the Atreus part was the developers trolling. I think they knew what they were doing.
Very well could be.
I didn't mind the Atreus part because that one has like a little bit of story impact.
Yeah,
loading screens would break immersion. Like they're keeping you in the experience.
The climbing breaks the immersion for me immediately.
Strong disagree. As soon as I see a wall, I'm like, oh, okay. I'll just hold forward for a little bit. Whatever. Check my phone.
Let's talk about the other game that's in this top 2 for us, which is another masterclass in video game creation, Elden Ring. Which I'm pretty sure multiple of us throughout the year have said this is the best video game ever made. I was one of them. I still right there. Who wants to talk about this game? I don't know who has the most amount of time in this game. Most invested.
Do a short intro.
Sure.
Go for it.
All right. So Elden Ring. Imagine taking the Dark Souls formula and making it into an excellent open world game, the best one you could imagine. Elden Ring is better than that.
I mean, honestly, where's the lie? It is so crazy in this game. The number of times I was playing Elden Ring and I went, okay, you know what? I think I've seen pretty much everything. And then I would like turn another corner and be like, oh no, I have not. Oh, that was very silly of me to think. Like, I have a very distinct memory of, like, exploring one of the opening forests. Like, I think I've seen, like, most of it. There's not really much this game could surprise me. Going into a house, going down an elevator, and finding a secret underground city with mini bosses and completely unique enemies, and just being like, wow.
Also, the way the map is revealed to you, when you first start and you see Limgrave, and it's like, okay, this is a big map, but, like, all right. And then it, like, zooms out a little bit, and you're like, oh. It's a really big map. And then it just keeps going. Like, how are there freaking more places for me to go? I don't understand. Insane.
Yeah, I wish more games did that. More open world games did that with the map system, where you like think, oh, this is pretty big, and then you explore slightly farther, and you're like, oh, this is really big, and you explore slightly farther, and you're like, oh, this is enormous.
You like come through that valley, and it like takes you to where you can like see the entire lake, and you're just like,
oh my god.
And then you think that that's the game. Like, you think that that's probably, like, it, right? Because, like, Dark Souls has been pretty small, No, that's not it. There's more past it.
They just keep doing it. They keep doing it.
Can we talk about character design in this game. Like bosses. Well, I mean, we didn't have to, it didn't even have to be bosses. It's just literally freaking everything in this game is so wildly unique and weird and somehow fits the region that it's in. The lore is like just very strange, but also somehow fits with every boss you come in contact with. You're like, oh, okay, I see that. Oh, that's weird. You know, I love it.
It's such a great mix of like horror and comedy and just epic fantasy. Like Starscourge Rodan is the most powerful warrior in the land who can stop the stars with his magic. He can stop the celestial bodies from moving. And the main reason he has gravity magic is so he can ride his tiny little horse, who's like a fifth of his body mass.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why? Like, I love that. That's so weird and funny and amazing. And he rides it the entire boss fight. He's just riding this tiny horse.
And then he flies in as like a meteorite landing.
He
Excellent.
jumps up into space to super slam you. It's like, what? So good. Oh my god. I love that fight so much.
Yeah. Is that your favorite boss fight, you think?
I think it's gotta be.
I really like Radigan.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is he Radigan? Sorry, they all have the
Elven
name.
Beast.
Or sorry, not Radigan. Rykard, the serpent.
Oh, Rykard.
That's a freaking good boss.
That's a cool fight.
Yeah. There's too many R's. There's a lot of R's in that game.
Yes. Oh
Like
my
half
god.
of them are ours. The other half are M's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only reason it didn't hit the same for me is there was a boss fight in Dark Souls 3 that is very similar. It has a similar mechanic, is what I will say.
Got it.
So when it came up, I went, "Oh, they figured out how to make this mechanic like interesting and fun." Because in Dark Souls 3, the boss fight kind of sucked, but in Elden Ring, it like slaps. It's so good.
Yeah, it was friggin' nuts. Yeah, man, this game.
One of the things that blows me away in this game, the world is so enormous, but almost I don't think I ever on my first playthrough got to a spot and felt like I couldn't accomplish, like I couldn't beat it. It always felt like regardless of where I went, I wasn't too strong and I wasn't too weak to do the area.
Well, until you encountered
which is
Melania.
crazy. Okay, well that's one boss specifically designed to be the hardest boss in the game.
Yeah, she's a cheater.
Yeah. I never felt overpowered, never underpowered, which seems wild in a game that enormous.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint with Elden Ring, and I think it's just the direction that the Souls games are going, is that I feel like every boss is just a tiny bit too fast for a strength build. And if you look back at like Dark Souls 1, you can like ignore Dark Souls 2 because, you know, everybody does. And then look at Dark Souls 3, strength builds are like, you just kind of circle strafe around the boss, and then you get a few hits in, and then you circle strafe. But like this one is like, it took, I guess, Bloodborne and Sekiro and all of the knowledge from those, and they were just like, all right, let's speed all the time. And so for a large portion, I was trying to find a build, and it wasn't until it's weird, I got to Millennia, and I was like, I can't beat this at all with the build that I have. So I had to like do a little bit of research outside the game. I had to like look up some stats that I should be running, like, and I finally like landed on a build that I can hold my own against bosses now, but it's a lot of jump strikes instead of what I'm used to. So
I definitely played the whole game with just unga bunga jump attacks.
They're really good.
I mean, I hit like a train. There were some bosses I killed in like 3 hits.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of damage. To me, what's crazy, right? Because you talk about it's kind of become like a thing where when a game brags about how big it is, everyone just kind of rolls their eyes because it's like, great, you copy pasted the same building 200 times. No one's freaking impressed. But I feel like it feels like every area in Elden Ring was like hand freaking crafted.
yeah.
Like there is so much unique content. Like even some bosses do get reused, but it's always like hours and hours and hours apart. And even the reused bosses, a lot of times there'll be a unique mechanic. Like you fight so many, what are they called? Tree sentinels?
Yeah.
But there's like 10 different variations of a tree sentinel too. There's the ones that have rot. There's one that splits in two randomly halfway through the fight. That was a crazy thing to discover. So it's just like, even when it's like, oh, I fought this enemy before, it's like, well, Actually, I kind of haven't. Actually, I need to actually step back and figure out how to deal with this now. It's crazy.
There's so many catacombs, and even those, most of them
Yes.
feel unique. They have some unique mechanic in them that makes them feel
I
new and interesting.
I could not believe how, because it really does feel like each catacomb has like one cool concept that they're like, this is the concept for this catacomb. Like there's one where there's like 3 copies of the catacomb that you kind of delve into. It's almost like Inception. You're going back into the catacomb, and it's very surreal the first time you go through. And then once you figure out what it's doing, you're like, that is so clever. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I blows me away.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we gotta put these in spots, boys. The more I talk about Elden Ring, the more I realize that it probably is just the clear winner here. I have really bad issues with recency bias. Like I will really lean towards something if I've recently encountered it because I have a
3 hours ago.
bad memory and I just experienced the emotional draw of God of War. But Elden Ring is just so mind-boggling, and I have this is my first Souls experience. Period.
Yeah.
I never played a Souls game, and I
you
spent
tried to start
100.
Bloodborne. I remember that.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out how to equip a weapon. I spent 130 hours playing Elden Ring. 90 of those I didn't even know you could sprint, and I still loved this game.
Why do you hurt me like this? Why do you say things like that? How did you live?
On the topic
really good.
of recency bias, I will say that God of War was recent for me. Both of them. But there was a portion of God of War which I had already discussed where I was like, this isn't better than the first game. And so I actually paused and I went back to Elden Ring and I started fighting through some bosses, mostly because I was just with my in-laws and they play Elden Ring. So I wanted to kind of fight some more bosses that they have discovered and fought and stuff like that. So I played through a little bit, like I said, found my build, beat a couple bosses. But then I started realizing if I want to go and actually play through the hardest difficulty of Ragnarok, I should probably not put it down for too long and keep playing Elden Ring, or else I will become accustomed to Elden Ring's controls. So I went back to Ragnarok. I will say Ragnarok is probably the most fun that I've had in a video game in a long time. Elden Ring to me was more of a grueling kind of what Souls-like is, just kind of a chore to play. That's the way I feel about it. All the bosses were like, the mechanics were very punishing, which is, like I said, a Souls-like. God of War was just like good, clean fun. It was just like, even when the bosses were hard, like once you've mastered that mechanic, it was pretty simple to do whatever, get around it. You could rage out of stuff. If you needed to, you could cheese it out by just using the axe to throw it constantly to chip a boss down until you finally can get the R3 off and kill it. Like, I think from start to finish, even with Ironwood, God of War was like, I kept picking it up, I kept wanting to play it. And Elden Ring, I keep pausing. I can't bring myself to finish the game. And so that, for me, that's the only reason why I would put God of War as one.
Elden Ring
I didn't stop playing Elden Ring once I started it. All the way,
Yeah,
150 hours.
I couldn't quit.
I didn't play anything else during that time.
For me, Elden Ring still has that Souls thing, which is like dying is really annoying and you do it a lot. Like every time you die, you're usually in a spot where it's like you're going to take a little bit of time to get back to where you were. And then you got to make sure you do it carefully because you got to pick up the thing you dropped. Otherwise, there's so much time that you've wasted. And then you're probably just going to die again real quick and have to do that all over again. And like, that is so unique to the Souls games. And it does give it like a lot of extra like tension and stakes, which is like a good thing, I guess. But to me, it's just kind of annoying. Whereas like normal video games, they checkpoint well usually, and you're right back in. Like Ragnarok, there was plenty of fights that I had a really tough time finishing, but they never felt frustrating. They always felt like, I was right back in. I was overcoming the challenge.
You weren't planning on giving me God of War. That's why they weren't feeling frustrating.
I mean, to add on to what Alex is saying, though, I'm at a fight right now where I've died probably 70 to 150 times, and I don't think
Big
that's
range.
exaggerating. And literally, the screen goes to where you hit the X button after it says you've died or whatever, and I am literally holding my analog stick forward, and I'm back into the fight with the screen fading in. And so it's like Dark Souls, you die at the boss, you gotta make your way. Not Dark Souls, Elden Ring. You know what I meant. You got to make your way all the way back. So, like, I see what I was saying there. I don't have much of a annoyance because, I mean, once you get far enough in the game, losing souls is like, well, whatever.
Yeah, who
I'll just
cares?
get them
Yeah.
back.
I'll get 10,000
but,
more.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised because I feel like Elden Ring usually does a good job of having a bonfire that's like right by the boss.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like the catacomb dungeons, the door's always like a straight shot. A lot of times there's not even enemies. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to run for like 10 seconds, but you get right back in.
It's definitely a lot better than previous games.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
I mean it is
Absolutely.
an issue they have had in the past. I thought they did a pretty good job of it. I'm trying to think of bosses with annoying runbacks
Honestly, the
in
ones
Elden
that
Ring.
frustrated me weren't even, and it's weird because it's kind of similar to Ragnarok. It's not the bosses, it's like the mini bosses that were on the outside of the doors that you had to run to. And so it's like
Yeah.
those are all out in
Okay.
the world everywhere, and you got to get back to them, and
Sure.
there's no bonfire close to them. And
I can
then
see that.
Ragnarok's similar because it's like all the tiny fights were like extremely hard because you have to
Yeah.
manage like projectiles coming at you from everywhere and like a person behind you that you didn't know about. And
Yeah, because the camera's
That-
still shoved up your ass.
Yeah, that's like my second main issue with Ragnarok is that most of the difficulty comes from things off screen murdering you,
Mm-hmm.
which is frustrating.
Yeah, it does not feel good to get hit by the guy behind you who, like,
Mm-mm.
you're like, oh, I didn't
You
realize
barely
he was there.
Yeah, the UI is not good
let
enough.
me tell you though, when you 180 and you parry that man,
Mm, I bet.
I don't even
It
use
feels
that
good.
mechanic at
The
all.
180?
You don't parry?
Never. No,
Oh,
I
Don't
parry all the
parry.
time. I don't think
What?
I've ever used the 180 once in
Oh.
either game.
I have used it all the time, unintentionally, and then died immediately.
Oh,
for it.
yeah.
It's great. I
That.
love it. Love it so much.
I will say that one thing that stands out for me for Elden Ring is it has changed my approach to every video game subsequently. I only play on the hardest difficulty.
Mm,
And I wish I was joking. Every game I play now, I'm like, what's the hardest difficulty? We're doing
let's
it.
go.
I played the hardest difficulty on the Call of Duty campaign. Because you
Oh,
can't play
wow.
on
well,
realism
the hardest
the first run through.
unlockable. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Mm.
can't play on realism first. Otherwise, I'd have freaking picked it. Like a masochist.
Wow.
I don't know why I want to do that, but
Aaron,
it's just
sounds like
changed
you're
me.
a gamer now.
I think I'm a
Welcome to
capital
the club,
G
baby.
gamer, boys. I'm like that dad in Ollie Ollie World who's just hanging around and he's
Yeah.
like 20 years older than everybody else. It's just me,
Exactly.
boys. But I'm getting cool because I'm a capital G gamer.
Oh my
All right.
gosh.
We got.
Sometimes it can hurt your experience to do that. Like when you guys were in the middle of God of War and complaining about it, and we were like, me and Caleb were like, didn't have any of those issues actually.
I think I overcame
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, he
I
did
was.
beat
I
it.
was taking a
Mhm.
fight. Well, I think I overcame it because I was taking a fight way before I should have.
yeah.
And I went back
Wow.
and
That'll
I
do it.
played the game the way I should have, which was gone and done a couple of things. And I came back and had the fight. And he was still a level above me, but it was just like so much easier. It wasn't, I get hit once and I die.
Yeah.
I will
You know.
say, Ragnarok, it keeps yo-yoing me because I'll get a fight and I'll get really frustrated, but then I beat it and feel great. And it's like, well, I got over the frustration, I guess. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine
And-
now. I don't need to lower the difficulty. I'm a fucking god.
Yeah. And when you beat it at full health because you've
Oh,
never
yeah.
been hit.
The number of times I've gotten stuck on a boss and then beat it without getting hit once.
That's
It's crazy.
Almost
It's
every boss
insane.
for me.
Yeah. Because if you get hit, I think it's twice for me for most bosses. I'm dead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And some heavy attacks are just one hit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yep. It's crazy.
Just sounds frustrating, guys.
All right.
The thing is, though, it feels great when you win.
Yeah. Well,
It feels great when you win on not the hardest difficulty.
Maybe for you plebs.
I'm like
spot number
150
two.
more attempts shy of reducing the difficulty.
Spot number 2. I'm gonna vote for Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Also Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
That's 3. Owen, get out of here.
But Ragnarok has color.
Yeah, the colors are way better in Ragnarok. You should vote for that one.
You know, I respect that. However, I do believe that Elden Ring, from what I've watched, is a better game.
From what
So-
I watched.
From what I've watched, I will say I don't agree. I think God of War Ragnarok is probably my favorite game of all time.
Wow.
I think Elden
And
Ring is my favorite game of all time.
I understand that it needs to go at number 2, though.
I will say it isn't heartbreaking seeing Elden Ring go number 1, especially because if you even remove it from mechanics, story, like if you're not breaking it down that way, if you look at the generational gap that it bridged and like the amount of people of just all demographics that it hit,
Mm-hmm.
it's wild. Like
Crazy.
I would
True.
never would have guessed that my father-in-law would have been playing Elden Ring, and he has been hammering on that game, and it's wild to me.
Dude, the number of people that at my work who don't even play video games, don't even probably know what an Xbox is, have approached me and been like, "Hey, have you played that game Elden Ring?" I'm like, I can't believe we're having this conversation right now. Yes, as a matter of fact.
Are you sure they don't ask if you played Elder Ring?
What is your actual vote, Chad? Just so I know.
God of War.
Okay, for my
For number
purposes.
I
So
was
Alex
the
could feel
first
a
one to
little-
vote.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't hear it.
I
So
think what's really
technically it's 4-2.
technically. I think what's really great though is that both of these feel like they are the best at the experience they're trying to deliver.
Yeah,
Like God of War
Absolutely.
obviously is very focused on being like a cinematic, story-driven, character-driven experience, whereas Elden Ring is doing a whole like open world Souls-like thing with like the kind of hidden lore where you like find a lot of like environmental storytelling and like lore drops, and it's so good at that. And they're both just so good. In a lot of ways, it almost feels like apples and oranges. You know
It's
what
really
I
hard to
mean?
compare. Yeah, I agree because the reason I think Ragnarok is so great is because of its ability to do storytelling and narrative.
Mhm.
And that's why I think it's right up there, for me at least, with The Last of Us, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I think the narrative in that game is absolutely phenomenal. But Elden Ring, its design and its ability to just like make unique things literally everywhere you go, where you never feel like you're repeating the same thing and you're always encountering something new, but yet somehow it's still a cohesive story with all of these underlying elements that come together in the end. Insane.
Yeah, I want to be clear for listeners because I think I've only said negative things about Elden Ring right now. I actually really do like Elden Ring. Elden Ring's fantastic.
You haven't beaten it though.
I have not beaten it, but
Have you really not?
And Chad hasn't beaten it.
I
Oh,
do
he's fighting
think.
Melania,
I mean, it's
though.
the most I've played of any Souls type game. I've never really gotten to Souls type games before this, and it is a incredible feat of video game design. So, definitely deserves all the praise it gets. I was just trying to, further my agenda. So,
I was thinking back the other
This
day.
will get you people to play Bloodborne and Sekiro. That'd be
I'm waiting
nice.
on us to
Bloodborne when it
release
comes
it
to
on
PC.
PC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking back the other day, actually, at a conversation that you and I had, Alex, like before Elden Ring came out, and I was like, I don't remember, we were in the kitchen or something, and I was like, hey man, are you like excited about Elden Ring? I'm really pumped about it. And you looked at me, and you were like, that's like a Souls-like game, right?
yeah,
You don't play Souls-like games. I was like, I don't know, man. It just looks freaking awesome. I'm so excited.
yeah.
And it's just so much more approachable than the previous Souls games.
It's ludicrous.
If you do the tutorial.
Yeah, honestly,
No.
even without it, I think just having the open world means you're a lot less likely to get hard stuck.
yeah.
Melania
Yeah.
excluded.
Yeah.
Because anytime you get
She's a
stuck,
well,
it's like
boss.
That's
she's
a
optional.
choice.
It's
That's a
actually
choice.
it's like a brilliant design decision for Souls games because it
Oh, it
allows
is.
I
people that are
definitely
way worse to be able to progress.
I definitely paused my attempts on her and went towards I don't know what the guy's name is, but he has a hood at first, and then he turns into like this awesome looking werewolf
yes.
sword
Cleric,
guy.
something
Clergyman.
cleric. Oh, beast
Yeah.
clergyman. That's it.
So I've
Yep.
Yeah.
I've beaten him, and that's where I paused because I was like, I should definitely go back to Ragnarok before I forget
yeah,
controls.
fair.
Man, I really hope there's nothing good coming out at the beginning of 2023 because now I want to go back and play Elden Ring again.
Yeah, no.
We've been
The
talking
same.
about it so much. I'm like, oh man, I try a new build.
Mhm.
I
We
really
have,
want to get
uh,
another build to endgame before the DLC comes out, whenever that is.
We have Dead Space right around the corner, and you never played that
That's
before.
true.
That's true. I am gonna go play those. I really
Tomorrow,
liked
isn't it?
Callisto. So
I'm gonna wait till Dead Space 3 comes out and then play it with Travis.
Guys, Forspoken's out. I heard it's amazing.
Is
Is that the name of the game? Forspoken?
I saw.
That's
Okay.
the
That
name
is.
of it.
Yep.
I've
It is getting
heard it
dunked on
described
so
as
hard.
a $20 game in a $70 package.
Yikes! Man, I'm so like it looks. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It looks
The-
cool. I wish it was
really-
good.
I know this
saw
is totally tangential now, but there was a video that I was watching. I think it was a TikTok, and the guy's like, "This is all I do," and he was just circling, and he was just casting a spell,
Uh-huh.
and that's it.
I
So
saw
Yeah,
a
the
boss
video
combat
is
with,
like
looks
damage
rough.
is coming off of him.
I saw a
I
video
put
with
the demo
Asmongold
combat.
where he keeps like walking into places and then it will just like, oh, you've gone too far away from your objective, and then it just teleports you back to this like spot way far before because you're out of bounds. That's the way it's apparently designed to work.
Amazing.
And it was just like
That's
over and
awful.
over and over and over that happened to him.
Hey, you know what's cool? That's the first video game released on PC that uses direct storage.
Oh,
New technology, guys.
be nice
Yeah,
if it was better.
lightning fast loading times.
Lightning.
Computers are good as PS5s now.
All right. Here is our list from bottom to top. Citizen Sleeper at 6, Neon White at 5, Across the Obelisk at 4, Tunic at 3, God of War Ragnarok at 2, and Elden Ring topping the list at number 1. Guys, it was a good year for games. I'm excited about
Great year for
2023.
games.
I'm
Holy
excited
shit.
about it.
It's so much more depressing now because I had totally set myself up to be fine with Elden Ring winning for months and months and months. I was totally good to go. And then like the last 2 days, Chad and Aaron have been like, I don't know, Ragnarok's pretty good. And I'm like, hold on a second. Do I have votes here?
Yeah, Aaron really
They
pulled,
gave you hope, man.
the wool over the eyes over here. I thought he was definitely going
man,
to
geez.
Yeah, I
Jeez.
thought so too.
I really don't want to vote based on recency bias, and I think that's really why I was pulled so hard towards Ragnarok today. And over the last week or whatever. Anyway.
I was totally fine. You could have left it alone.
All right, well, that's our Game of the Year list. Man, thanks so much for joining us. We will be back in a year with our next Game of the Year list. We'll also be back in 2 weeks with a normal podcast again. So look forward to that. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time. See ya.